Pretty nice day in downtown Philadelphia, although there is a chance of some rain tonight. The Mets are just rowing along merrily as they have a winning streak that has now reached 6, a lead in the National League East. That is a season-high 7.5 games over the second-place Phillies. And Billy Wagner, the former Philly, finally got into a game here last night, and he talked about the experience with Chris Cotter.
You got a nice reception last night, the reception you expected when you came in. Were you a little amped because of that, or did it not even affect you at all?
No, the situation at hand was what I was pretty much had all the adrenaline over. Was you gotta go out there and you're facing one of their best hitters, probably their best hitter on the team, and I've seen him for 2 years and I know how good he is, and you gotta make pitches, and I think I was more about that. And then when we came back when we had that long inning in between, a lot of things going on, I was still trying to stay with a lot of adrenaline. I think I wore myself out in between the innings just trying to stay
Right.
in tune with the game. And last night was I'm glad it's over, and I'm glad we were able to go out there, and David made a big play for me, and but you need that throughout a season, guys to pick you up, and that's why I've got this far.
You pointed at Dave after he made the play. Did you say anything to him, or what goes through your mind when you see an unbelievable play like that? Does it even register at first?
Well, it was such a crucial part of the game because, Pat hit the ball real well, and, it's one of those things I don't even think David just reacted and was able to make that play, and, that right there turned the game. I mean, that could allow me to face Howard with not having to worry about, him hitting a home run. If he hits a home run, big deal. You're still down by 1. It allowed me to go out there and not have to worry about him and, and face Roland. So that play was huge, and, I just think we're even now.
Does this team's play sort of give you the feeling that maybe this is a team of destiny because they seem to make plays like that when the game's right on the line?
Well, I think it's too early to say that because we still got 3 months, and we have to piece 6 months together. We can't expect to win the division in the first 3 months, but we're playing well, and if we can stay healthy and have the same competitive nature we've got right now, playoffs are very viable.
Well, Billy says he and David Wright are even because, remember, Billy gave up a home run to Barry Bonds in San Francisco to tie a game in the 9th after an error by Wright, but that more than made up for it last night. Fanatic down. We're back next. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by ChevyOffers.com, the presenting sponsor of Baseball Night in New York. By Rico, move your ideas forward with Rico dependability. By Honda, see your Honda dealer and discover the great values now being offered. And Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% on car insurance. Visit geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia, and Brett Myers to the mound for the Phillies. Myers will make his 14th start of the year, and it's pretty interesting that he has not allowed a run in the first inning, but these guys have been scoring many first inning runs. The lineup brought to you by ChevyOffers.com. Carlos Delgado has found this ballpark very much to his liking. Delgado had a home run last night, and Myers on the year 4-2. Myers last worked on Friday.
Myers has really been an ace for this staff. He just has not got the run support. 12 of his 13 starts have been 3 earned runs or less. And this is the 18th time you see Reyes and Myers next to each other, facing each other right now. It's the 18th time he's faced the Mets in his young career.
Myers lifetime 7-5 against New York. And Reyes just waiting for the go-ahead to get started here in the batter's box while Myers steps up towards the rubber. But again, it's worth pointing out that the Mets have scored at least 1 run in the first inning in each of their last 6 games. And Myers has made the most starts this season of any major league pitcher who has not allowed a first inning run. In fact, the opponents have only 3 hits in 41 first inning at bats against Myers. So if nothing else, based on those trends, this will be an interesting top of the first. But again, everybody just waiting for the go-ahead. Scheduled first pitch is 7:05. And this game is also being televised nationally out of market. And so we're all prisoners to an extent. But now they get the go-ahead, and Myers' first pitch is taken for a strike.
Well, Reyes last night led the game off with a bunt single up the first base line, and now he's forced the Philly infield. Look at the corners playing in. You have to do it. You have to respect his ability to drag bunt.
And the fastball crackles over the outside corner. 92-mile-an-hour fastball thrown there by Myers. Look at that walk differential between last year and this. He's already walked more than he did all of last year, 3 times more. And the 0-2 taken low.
He was walked intentionally twice last night. Very rare that you see a leadoff hitter get walked intentionally in a ball game.
LaDuca waits on deck. Those two combined to produce a run, just 2 batters in last night. 2-2. Reyes has always hit well against Myers. He's 10 for 30 with a home run against him.
The Mets lineup has 6 home runs against Myers, probably from a familiarity, Howie, with those 18 starts.
Well, he's pitched well the last 2 or 3 starts against the Mets. Prior to that, Mets owned him.
To the right side, Utley throws out Reyes, 1 away.
And the Phillies' Ford defense, as you can see, second career start for Coast, Chris Coast, and also the 8th star of the season in left field for David DeLucci as Burrell gets a rest. Everywhere else, it's the same cast of characters for the Phillies.
And now Paul LaDuca bats. Remember last night, Reyes bunted his way on, stole second, and then LaDuca took one the other way for an RBI single. Paul now has hit in 6 straight games. He had 2 for 5 last night.
Well, he was the recipient of those intentional walks. Men on base for him to drive in.
And the fastball misses outside.
And both times yesterday he came through, Howie. Follow each intentional walk with an RBI single.
There are some hitters who will feast on the opposition walking the guy in front of him. LaDuca rips one, and that's going to fall in and one hop the wall. So LaDuca on his way to second. DeLucci plays it back in, and with 1 out, the Mets have a runner in scoring position.
Well, shoulder in, fastball down the pipe, Ron, belt high. Look at the shoulder in. A little bit of an uppercut power swing there. Drives the ball down the left field line. Mistake by Meyer.
You're right, Keith. That was a little uppercut, but maybe because of the 2-0 count, LaDuca was trying to go yard on Mr. Myers.
So now Beltran, who's been driving runs in regularly. In fact, he has driven home at least 1 run in 6 straight games. And they thought maybe LaDuca missed first base, but no. According to first base ump Randy Marsh, who's the crew chief. He looks offended.
Never missed a bag in my life. What are you talking about?
It's close, guys.
0-1 to Beltran.
For some reason, I don't know why I was watching, but I was watching, and it's just got the side of the base.
Well, he knew it all along.
Very unusual to touch base with your left foot, too, so he was kind of out of sorts making that turn.
0-1 to Beltran inside.
You see right there, he just did skim the facing of the bag. What a road trip for Beltran.
7th in the league in RBIs. And it's 2-1.
Well, pretty impressive amongst other statistics that are incredible. As you said, 4th in the league with runners in scoring position, batting average, .367. 5th, tied for 5th with extra base hits.
Chase Utley onto the grass. And Beltran retired as LaDuca goes to 3rd. So the Mets trying to keep that first inning string going of first inning runs scored. We'll leave it up to Delgado with LaDuca at third.
Well, something's got to give in this inning because Myers got a string going too.
Delgado has driven in runs 7 games in a row. Tied for 6th in the league with 19 home runs. And the Phillies have to modify the shift against him. And Delgado goes towards the gap, and that's going to fall in. And the Mets have another first inning run. It caroms away from Rowan, but Delgado will hold on at second. And for the 7th straight game, the Mets have a first inning run. And it's the first time that Myers has allowed a run in the first inning this year.
Well, this is when you know a hitter's coming out of a slump. Look at the pitch. This is a good pitch. Maybe had a little bit of the plate, but that's on the outside part of the plate. Knee high, sinking, and he goes right with it, Ronnie.
And what you love seeing by Delgado, when he was going through that slump, that's a pitch he could not handle. Jumping on that and hitting that the opposite way, that's good to see.
He was pulling that pitch, Howie, and now he's come out of his slump. I'm surprised here in the road trip he's hitting .444.
I'm surprised they're pitching to David Wright here, even with a switch hitter who will bat left on deck. That's how hot David's been. Wright on a 7-game hitting streak, 4th in the league in hitting as Valentin waits his turn. So the Mets with 1 in. And right up the middle. Delgado turns third. Rowan up with the ball. The throw to the plate is up the line. Delgado scores right to second. 2-0 New York. They have been like a machine early in games.
Well, here's the pitch here. Wants it away. Oh, did not get it away. Got like a slider run.
Slider, hanging slider. Why they were pitching to him anyways is beyond me. David Wright red hot on this road trip too. I know what Myers is trying to do. He's trying to throw a slider down and away. Maybe Wright will chase it. Sometimes it's not that easy. He missed with the pitch.
And Wright very wisely, very alert in the bases. Winds up on second base on the throw home.
Valentin takes the slider inside.
So here's David, notes the base hit. Looks over to third to see where Delgado is. See if he's going. On the throw, he read it easily that it was over the cutoff man's head. And the Mets continue to do everything right. The little things.
That's the key, though, Keith, isn't it? When you're a base runner, when you make the turn, the flight of the ball will tell you whether you're going on through to second. If it's high enough that you know that it won't be cut off, you got an easy pass to second.
Right. You'll know as you're rounding the base, you'll know if the throw's over the cutoff man's head or not, and you make your decision right away. And David didn't even hesitate.
1-1 to Valentin on the inside corner. Hey, here's something else to consider about this game. Early runs may be more important tonight than usual because there's a lot of rain in the area here. And although nothing's coming down right now, last we heard it was pouring about 15 or 20 minutes from here. So you've always got the chance of a rain shortened game, which means you want to jump out on top early. Valentin to shallow left. Dellucci started back, but recovers, and that retires the side. But the Mets keep it going. 7 straight games with first inning runs. 2 of them for El Duque tonight. Well, Willie Randolph would love to be able to tell you that he's planned every detail of the Mets' first inning success, but it certainly is a lot more complicated than that. And just take a second to digest that.
Yeah.
Because you always talk about how difficult things get when you're away from home. Mets have made it look simple on this trip.
It's like you've got a stable full of thoroughbreds. All you got to do is open the gate and let them go run.
And El Duque will face this Phillies lineup brought to you by Rico. Chase Utley, the 2-hitter, has been in a slump lately, but always hits well against the Mets. Dellucci getting a start. And for Hernandez, this will be his 13th start overall. And he throws strike 1 to Jimmy Rollins. Rollins 2 for 4, both home runs last night. First multi-home run game of his career. And that's ripped down the line and right. A foul ball.
Ron, what does it mean as a pitcher when you go out there and your ball club, you see the ball right here, just hooking foul by around 4 or 5 feet? When your club goes out there and scores you a crooked number out there in the first inning, what does that mean for a starting pitcher?
Boy, I tell you, that feels so great, especially on the road. And what it allows you to do, you're coming into the game feeling and wanting to be aggressive. I'm going to be aggressive today. I'm going to be aggressive in the strike zone. It allows you to be even more aggressive because now you have those almost in the bank kind of runs to work with. So if you get in a spot where you're 2-1 or 3-1 with the third place hitter, you already have 2 outs, you're going to challenge them and go after them instead of maybe trying to nibble around the corners.
There are the guys who had the 2-out hits to give El Duque a couple of runs. Hernandez had 1 run in his pocket when he went to the mound in Arizona. Wound up winning 7-1. It was a 9th inning run which broke the shutout bid. And will reach the seat, still 2-2.
Now you can see what I've seen in his last start, which I watched on TV. I was home when you guys were in Arizona. Got a lot of bite on his hook right now, his curve.
These breaking pitches in Arizona were excellent. He was able to throw him behind in the count.
2-2. Did he go around? He certainly did. So El Duque strikes out Rollins.
Well, this is the key here, Keith. For El Duque to be successful, he's got to be able to pitch into the left-handed hitters. He does that to Rollins. That pitch was down. Rollins could not lay off. Because once he establishes in, then he can do whatever he wants to do with his slow stuff away to the left-handers.
And I always feel that El Duque, Ronnie, and correct me if I'm wrong, he's one of those pitchers where his off-speed stuff, his breaking stuff, his changeup makes his fastball. Most pitchers, their fastballs make their breaking stuff.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Pitches backwards almost.
Chase Utley down to Delgado. And that's easy for Carlos. 2 away. Utley now stuck in a 4 for 31 slump. You've seen Delgado. Let's look at the rest of the Mets defense. Brought to you by Geico.
There's the Geico defense and Met defense. I was a little slow there, Howie. Sorry. 25 errorless game here as for David Wright. And then he made the great play last night, as you know. And it is the same group out there. They're on a tear. You're not going to take them out of the lineup. Tomorrow there'll be some changes with the day game.
Yeah, at the very least, you would imagine Ramon Castro will catch. Bobby Abreu takes a strike on the outside corner.
I mean, one of the fun things, isn't it, when you're, if they were to win tonight, the Mets, trying to figure out what kind of lineup that Willie might send out there tomorrow. He'd love to get Franco some at-bats, maybe get Eli Marrero some at-bats in the outfield. Ramon Castro will catch.
0-2 to Abreu. Corey Lytle will pitch for the Phillies tomorrow against Steve Trexel.
You know, Keith, you were talking about before when your team scores your runs. The other thing you feel as a starting pitcher, you feel great responsibility to protect that, you know, to go out and put a 0 up there, get your team back in the dugout so you can go hitting again.
Backdoor missed. It's 1-2. This is El Duque's first start ever against the Phillies. You see the Mets are playing Abreu straight up. And the 1-2 pitch. Another breaking ball.
And there's that breaking ball that I've liked. I mean, it's just that is a biting, sharp hook.
And he's doing it both ways. He's backdooring it and then down and in. And then down, though, because you can't leave that ball up to the left-handed hitters.
So the 1-2 to Abreu. Bobby Abreu had a great at-bat against Billy Wagner last night in the 9th inning, drawing a walk. Fouling all kinds of pitches off. And Billy was talking about that before the game. He was practically befuddled. I mean, he certainly respected and appreciated Abreu and what he did, but Billy said, man, I made some good pitches. 2-2. Abreu on a 12-game hitting streak. And El Duque in the old style uniform. How about that slow curveball? That couldn't even have gotten a speeding ticket. So Abreu down on strikes. 2 strikeouts for Rollins. But the Mets are in the fast lane as we head to the second. He probably feels imprisoned right about now because Cliff Floyd has not been able to enjoy any of this offensive barrage the Mets have launched on this road trip. And Cliff just still not ready with that ankle, and maybe tomorrow. That's all that he and Willie can say.
Well, the only salvation is that the team is winning. If your team was going in the tank, you'd feel terrible.
Andy Chavez, one of the reasons this team keeps winning.
What a job he's done. We can't say enough about Endy.
Now on a 5-game hitting streak. .341 average over his last 14 games.
You know how we talked about Reyes is playing the 8th last night. Wright's playing the 9th. But Chavez has 7 outfield assists. The Mets lead with 18 outfield assists. And with the lineup they have right now, because of Floyd out, they almost have 3 center fielders out in the outfield with Chavez, Millage, and Beltran.
And you're missing a guy in Floyd who was right there with all the leaders in the National League last year in outfield assists. And Chavez down on strikes. Oh, Brett Myers picks up his first strikeout. Good breaking ball there.
Well, the 21st strikeout of the season for Chavez here, and a pretty good hook on the back door after a couple of them down and in. Meyer went away with one and struck him out.
Well, speaking of outfield assists, Lastings Millage has a couple. Just 3 for his last 20 at the plate, but he's been able to drive in some runs, 10 of them in the last 9 games. Outside 1-0, and Mets will have a decision to make soon enough because Xavier Nady is on the way back.
And evidently Xavier had another big day at the plate today down in St. Lucie.
Yeah, 4 hits. They'll move him up to Norfolk tomorrow. He is now eligible to come off the DL, as is Gary Cohen, who we expect to be back on Friday. 1-2 to Millage. So let's see, by now, this is Wednesday. Gary's probably 1 step behind Nady, which means Gary going to Norfolk. Yeah, tomorrow. No, they'll get there tomorrow. And the 1-2 is even. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Could save on airfare and send them both together.
Why not? Now we're all anxious to have Gary back. Glad he's feeling better. And we look forward to his return on Friday. Here's the 2-2 to Millage. Ball 3.
Howie, now I want you, when you go back to radio, I think you look really nice in a tie. I want you to keep
No
that up.
chance. No chance. As Bob Murphy once said when he was asked to fill in on television, it wasn't my idea to put this tie on.
Murph.
Oh, he did too. And it was about 90 degrees out that night too. It was about 10 or 12 years ago, right in the middle of summer. Payoff pitch on the outside corner to Millage. There are the boys in the radio booth. Tom McCarthy on the left. And Eddie Coleman on the right. Eddie always does such a fabulous job when called upon, and he's been there the last 11 games. And Tom McCarthy over on the left, former Phillies announcer. And when we came in here last month, it was like a receiving line. Chris Majkowski, the brains of the outfit back there.
Absolutely.
Madge.
Madge had to put a lock on the door to keep people from coming in to welcome Tom back.
I don't understand the radio booth guys. They got a huge booth, and we're stuck here like sardines.
El Duque the other way. He's got to get down to first, but Abreu will hold on to the ball. And Hernandez his 4th hit in 20 at-bats this year.
Fastball away, up, just stayed level, went that way. Hey, you play once every 5th day. That's not a bad swing. It's hard to stay in a groove for a pitcher once every 5th day, isn't it, Ronnie?
Yeah, it is. But let me tell you, that play always reminds me. Abreu was faking like he might throw it at the first. Always reminds me of our good friend Eddie Lynch.
Oh.
He was on a 0 for 20-something to start the season. Hit a line drive to right field. Who was the right fielder for them? Jeff.
No.
One flap down.
I think it was Youngblood.
Was it
threw him. I
Youngblood?
remember the play.
Yeah,
It was a
but-
candlestick.
And Youngblood had a great arm.
And a one hopper to Youngblood, and he threw Lynchy out at first base.
He was a truck horse anyway, wasn't he?
Inside to Reyes, 1-0. Reyes grounded to second his first time. 2-out hit by El Duque, and he will not be held on at first base by Ryan Howard. Reyes goes through the middle. And station to station. Duque pulls in at second. So another RBI chance now, and it'll be LaDuca.
Well, 5 hits already in the inning and 2/3. This offense just keeps clicking, and that's a good pitch, Ron. And that's a good sign for Reyes, because we know left-handed he tends to pull off. That was a sinking fastball on the outside corner, knee high, and he went up the middle.
If Jose Reyes swings at low pitches like that and puts them in play on the ground, he'll hit 280 to 300.
So El Duque will lead from second. Reyes, who has great speed at first, will have to be careful not to lap Hernandez on a ball to the gap as LaDuca takes a strike. And again, we need to emphasize there is some serious rain in the area here. So the Mets happy to have an early lead, trying to add to it. But this game far from official. That might give you some idea of how dark it's getting beyond the outfield wall here.
Usually that view you'd see downtown Philadelphia. You can't see it right now.
And you can barely see it. There it is, just kind of trying to peek through.
Those umbrellas may come in handy for a different reason soon. 0-2 to LaDuca. Commotion you hear in the background. The Met fans will always come here in large numbers, making some noise. Laid off the slider, 1-2.
Well, LaDuca's 12 for 49 on the season with runners in scoring position. 2 for 2 last night in that spot. There's a Met fan. The odd couple there, geez.
2-2. They've got a lot of reason to smile, especially if they've been following the Mets around this whole trip. El Duque leading from second, letting Manny Acta know he knows what's going on. So now it's full. Myers was ahead of LaDuca, 0-2. And the runners at second and first will have an automatic start.
And the umpires don't like that, do they, Keith?
No, they don't. Look at the catcher move the glove. It was inside, looked inside to me, and he kept walking. He's yelling on the bench, quit begging.
Yeah, that's right.
Sam Holbrook is the home plate ump. And now LaDuca tired of waiting, and Holbrook accommodates him.
This is really, really a beautiful ballpark, isn't it? Gosh, all these new parks are wonderful.
Payoff pitch to Bell. And the Phillies commit another error. Now El Duque might have crossed right in front of Bell as that ball was getting there and obscured his vision. But Charlie Manuel has to be beside himself. They made 3 errors last night in the 6th inning, and this is a big one.
Well, he hesitated on whether to come in, and he's playing deep. It's a high hopper. He got a little indecision there. He kept his body in front. You either want to play the long hop or you come in and get the short hop. Now, Duque had nothing to do with getting in the way of his vision there. He just did not come in and get the short hop. He hesitated, and that's all it takes.
Yeah, it was full stride before El Duque got there. Bell just failed to make the play. So now Beltran with the bases loaded.
You know, Howie, not only the 3 errors they made last night, but Jimmy Rollins on the strike him out, throw him out, was supposed to stay on first. He missed the sign. So, you know, the Phillies have made some physical and mental mistakes.
Yeah, Charlie Manuel had a hold on Rollins in that bottom of the 8th inning. And Rollins missed it and was thrown out. Here's the 1-0. 2-0 to Beltran.
And it's pick your poison here. He's red hot hitter here. You got a red hot Carlos Delgado behind him, both left-hand hitters.
Outside 3-0. And Myers walking off the mound now for a different reason.
You know, he's always had a problem throughout his career being a hothead, and seems to have gotten it under control the last couple of years, but he will have flashes of being a hothead out there.
Beltran swinging 3-0. He takes ball 4, and it forces in a run. 3-0 New York. Well, it all started with a 2-out hit by El Duque, and now he'll have an opportunity to catch his breath in the dugout. And Myers will be paid a visit by pitching coach Rich Dubee, and unearned run, the error by Bell, keeps the inning going.
You know, it doesn't do you any good to get mad at the umpire, because it's only going to get worse, not better. And I think it's really important. Sam Holbrook has had a very good strike zone so far. And you watch this, when Holbrook goes out, the pitching coach might have a word for him also. That happens a lot. He'll go out, tell them to, you know, disassemble. And as they're walking back, Rich Dubee will inevitably say something. He doesn't.
Yet. There's always that side of your mouth, right?
Yeah, I just think that, you know, there's some umpires that you know going into the game. I know when I go to the ballpark, I'd look, see who's behind the plate. I know what kind of strikeout zone I'm going to get. Randy Marsh, the crew chief on first. Tomorrow he's umpiring, has a very small strike zone.
Now the Mets would love to score a few more here and then hurry things up. It's very dark at the ballpark now. And Delgado doubled in a run in the first. Fastball 0-1.
Delgado didn't like that call. And also, too, some pitchers, and Myers is a little hot-tempered. When someone makes an error in the field, you can't let that get you down either. The player out there is playing every day, doing the best he can. Errors happen. You can't let that upset your concentration. And he walked Beltran on 4 pitches.
What you have to do is you have to say to yourself, hey, listen, there's all these plays that are made during the year that pick me up. How about me picking up my player? That's the key. That's what you have to think about.
Delgado jammed, and it's 0-2.
Well, they came after him with 2 fastballs inside, very determined here. And Bell is one of the better fielding third basemen in the National League, and errors happen.
Well, they made one last night in that 6th inning when the Mets scored 5. And Myers just chasing Reyes back. See, what Reyes is doing is the product of the infield being tilted to the right against Delgado. So, you know, Bell is nowhere near the bag, and Reyes can take some liberties. Trying to distract Myers. Myers also working from the windup with the bases loaded.
Let me ask you a question, though, Keith. Reyes coming down that line like that, you're up there hitting with the bases loaded. You like that? You don't want to see that in your peripheral vision, do you?
Doesn't matter now.
I wouldn't like it.
Yeah,
no, I would not.
To be brief. Score an unearned run. They leave them loaded. 3-0 New York. Well, as we all know, 1986 was a magical year for the Mets as they won 108 games in their 2nd World Championship. As part of the 20th anniversary celebration, SNY is counting down your top 20 moments of 1986. Visit SNY.TV now to vote on your top 5 moments. Then tune into Geico Sports Night as SNY unveils your favorites starting July 31st. Tell you 3 that won't be on there are the 3 games here in Philly in September when you guys were trying to clinch. But here's Ryan Howard leading off, and a curveball for a strike. 0-1.
With Pat Burrell getting a day off, Ryan Howard moves up from the 5th position to the cleanup spot.
Howard's hit in 8 straight games. 1-1. Outfield just a couple of steps to the pull side against Howard. Tied him up 1-2. Look at El Duque's motion. And of course, it reminds you of all those postseason games he played under such a microscope with the Yankees. What, I wonder, would be the hardest part about picking the ball up with all those gyrations?
Well, as I always said, you like the guy with the nice, beautiful, easy motion. Get the big leg kick, almost turns his back to you, and it looks like he's almost a stride behind where you should be releasing the ball. He should be striding. It's like he's caught in between. Rick Sutcliffe had a motion like that, and it throws you off. He had a wiggle like Don Drysdale. And he's got all the different pitches, the off-speed pitches, and he can pop you inside. So he would be difficult to pick up.
Breaking ball. Delgado will try to pick it up, but can't do it. And a play at first anyway, too late. Good job by Valentin backing up. And El Duque getting over, but it's Delgado who makes an error to start the bottom of the second.
Okay. He hasn't made an error in a while, and he's been fielding with one hand lately, and that's what happened. And you're right. Look at Valentin's hustle here. Very nice. That's just the little things. But two hands, and you make that play.
So Valentin did what he could to bail Delgado out to no avail. And Aaron Rowand will hit. Rowand did a home run last night, although didn't everybody.
Yeah.
The only hit he had in 5 at-bats. He's hit all over the place for the Phillies in his first year here. 1-0. 6 of the 8 spots apart from the pitcher's 9th slot have featured Rowand's name at one time or another. I have learned to love him in a hurry here in Philadelphia.
Well, they got padding on that fence now, that's for sure, out there in center field.
Sure, now they do it, says Rowand. And he's hit. El Duque just came in with a fastball, and Rowand is plunked. And so now, with the Mets up 3 runs, the Phillies with runners at first and second, no outs.
Well, fastball in here. I've never seen hitters hit in such as much as they have been. It's almost like they don't know how to get away with the ball.
I think that's what the key. What you're saying, Keith, is that they just refuse to give in, and maybe because some of them can wear all that armor, they just kind of stay right there and let it hit them.
I have seen more hitters behind the count, Howie, just not even attempt to get out of the way, just turn their back and take it off the pad, off the body, and go to first base.
You just saw how dark it is here in Philadelphia with rain in the neighborhood. So outs precious right now to the Mets with an early 3-run lead. Look at that. There should be lightning any second now. Liberty Bell may get another crack. 2-0.
Although I don't know how you felt, Keith, as a pitcher, starting pitcher. I never thought about the rain like that because you can't rush through an inning. You know, you'd love to rush through an inning, but you just can't. You got to make the pitches. You got to go through that whole exercise. So it's better not to even think of what's going to happen. Let the umpires decide what they're going to do.
And there's other things that you can do, Howie, is when you want to get the game in, you're leading and it's threatened of rain, you don't throw the ball around the horn. When you make an out, you get it right back to the pitcher.
2-0. And DeLucci swings through it. You know, it's interesting you say that because I've never looked for that or can recall having seen it, but is that something that you did consciously?
Yes,
as a team?
Very consciously. And as a, you know, as the opposing team, you stay in the on-deck circle longer. You don't let them get away with it.
2-1 to DeLucci. Shallow center. Easy for Beltran. 1 away. Now David Bell, who's really going to be in the mood for atonement.
Oh, and a Philly fan said, "Ah, you're a bomb." From the upper deck.
I think they heard that across the Walt Whitman Bridge. And you hear the boos in addition to 1 or 2 leathered lungs in the background, but
tough town.
It is. Good play by LaDuca, 1-0. A lot of these Phillies players will tell you, as vociferous as the fans are here, it's a football town first. And the Eagles really get walloped when they're going badly. No swing, according to first base ump Randy Marsh. It's 2-0.
So you're saying that Terrell Owens probably wasn't welcome here anymore?
Yeah, you could say that. He's coming in with Dallas. I think they already, somebody in the paper gave the date today. I think it's early in the season, October 8th or 9th or something like that. They were already rehearsing. Here's the 2-0. Ball 3.
Well, Dallas, the Cowboys think that Parcells is going to be able to tame them. Good luck.
Well, this is interesting here. You've got Howard at second. and Rowan at first. Now the on-deck hitter is a 33-year-old rookie who's never had a major league hit. And then the pitcher, that's Chris Coast, who's doing the catching tonight. I wonder if El Duque is working somewhat around Bell here. Comes right in on 3-0.
You know, although if I was El Duque, I'd try to go after him. There's only 17 at bats have the Phillies had against El Duque. Not many players have seen him, so.
David Bell is the one that's seen him the most, 14 at bats with 3 hits. But that's not a lot of ABs.
That'll drive Beltran way back into the gap, and he makes the catch. A superb running catch by Beltran. Howard now tags up, and they've got him in a rundown. Delgado applies the tag. Double play. Oh, the Phillies have just killed themselves over the last couple of nights, but tonight Beltran has plenty to do with it. And then Howard runs himself into an extra out. And the second inning is over. A spectacular play and a bonehead play. And it's on to the third, 3-0. Well, they're kind of stunned in Philadelphia, but then again, the Mets have been doing that in a variety of ways, such as last night when David Wright delivered the Coors Light cold blast.
Well, that was the lead off the inning right there that gave the Mets the 5-4 lead. And David has been hot.
Kept it going in the first when he drove in a run with a single to extend his hitting streak to 8 straight games. On the outside corner.
Remember, that home run by Wright was the first pitch from Ryan Madson after the Phillies had left the bases loaded. Tom Glavine started the inning. Chad Bradford came in and got 2 great outs.
Bradford almost forgotten in last night's game. And Wright hits it well to right. Abreu back at the wall. Gone! So again, the Mets stop a Philly threat, and David Wright widens the lead. 4-0 New York. Wright's 13th of the year. I don't know that I've ever seen this club on this good of a roll for this long on the road. Ever.
I haven't.
Because it's a variety of ways. I mean, the defense saves you some runs, and then this.
Fastball meant to go away and up and on the outer half and way out.
You know, I know this is a long time ago now, and I remember in 1970 when the Mets were defending their first World Championship, they were battling with the Cubs for first place right around this time of year. And they went into Wrigley Field and they smoked the Cubs 5 straight games. I don't remember anything else on the road from this franchise that resembles this.
Just early and often tenacious, and then textbook playing on defense and pitching.
Weak swing by Valentin, and Myers throws him out. 1 away. Wasn't sure whether he wanted to go or not.
Well, the confidence is just going to be brimming with this ball club on this road trip. This may be the defining trip or part of the schedule for this ball club. I mean, we're kind of on the edge here, teetering to maybe dominating this division.
Andy Chavez, the batter, 0-1. Well, this is what I asked Willie about last night. I said there might be a time, because Willie's been with so many championship teams and strong teams between his playing career and his coaching career. The 0-1 to Chavez. To center. Rowan back. We've seen this before, way back. And this time he fails to come up with it. Chavez will get at least 3 with his speed. And Manny Acta will hold him at third. Somewhat frighteningly similar to the ball that was hit by Xavier Nady here last month.
Well, I got to believe here, Ronnie, that he was a little conscious of that wall this time. Even though it was a great effort.
He was a little conscious, but also we've noticed that Aaron Rowan plays very, very shallow. And when you play that shallow, you're going to have balls go over your head like that.
And all you kids out there, do you notice Endy Chavez, who's not a home run hitter, out of the box, hustling from the get-go? If there would have been a...
Hastings Millage dunks it in front of Abreu, who fires home. Not in time. And then it gets away from Coast. So Millage down to second. It is 5-0 New York. And even when the Phillies do something right, something else goes wrong.
Well, that should probably be charged an error on the catcher, Coast. Nice hitting by Millage. Slider up and away, going the opposite field. Something that he needs to do. Nice clutch hitting. This is a perfect one-hop throw. I don't know what happened with Chavez. I don't know what he's thinking. He should not be tagging up. The ball was not hit deep enough to tag up. You can't score on it, so you go halfway and you walk home.
Yeah, he did have a bad read on it, and a good read by Millage, though. But another thing, Coast wasn't able to hold on to the ball as El Duque is going to be bunting, and Brett Myers, the pitcher, was not backing up. So all these little things that you're supposed to do, because, you know, you can criticize those things, Howie, because that's just hustle. That's all that is. And not backing up allowed Millage to go.
0-2 to El Duque.
And when things are going your way, and the Mets are obviously on a roll here, you make your own breaks.
Yeah.
But even when you make mistakes, like Chavez there, and we're being picky here. He made a base running mistake. It works out in favor of the Mets. There's an error in the catcher because there's a boom-boom play and allows Millage to advance. Everything's going the Mets' way.
El Duque gone, 2 away. And Abreu made a pretty good play, didn't he? I mean, maybe he got into Chavez's head a little bit and decoyed him, because then he came on and played the hop and made a good throw to the plate, so he handled that well. And
I think you're right. I think he decoyed him very well by really charging that ball, and Chavez was in between, and he would have been really embarrassed if he would have made that catch and not been able to tag. So just in between was Chavez. But you're right, Keith. They're making their own breaks. They're doing some really positive things, but they're also getting some breaks. That pitch, I don't know if you noticed, by Brett Myers was dangerously close to Reyes. You know, sometimes you get a hot head when you're giving up 5 runs with the base open at first.
that's Clay Condrey, by the way, in the bullpen. 1-1 to Reyes. Another one of those innings. 2 crooked numbered innings tonight.
Well, something tells me that we're going to be running that graphic a few more times before this month's out.
Reyes drives one to deep right field, and Abreu can't get it. That will score Millage. Reyes digging for third. He's in there. 6-0 New York. Well, we've seen this before. Bobby Abreu does not go back real well on fly balls.
Now this you have is a fastball up, and Myers is cracking up here. Now look at him. He's short. He's got to catch that ball. That could very easily be charged an error right there, a 3-base error. And Reyes with the Jets burning. Forget about it. We'll see how they score it. I'll probably give a triple, but you can conceivably give an error there.
I don't know if you noticed that. If Charlie Manuel coming out, Brett Myers did not back up. If that ball had gone through, Reyes would have scored. Then he would have heard some real boos.
Now it looks like Clay Condrey is going to be called upon. And watch Myers here. He's a pretty temperamental kid, and he has reason to be frustrated. Abreu just the latest. So Myers departs, and this call to the bullpen is brought to you by Singular Wireless, raising the bar.
Mets leading 6-0 over the Phils here early at Citizens Bank Park. And Ronnie, you and I talked the other day about how important Brett Myers was to the top of this Phillies rotation and how he really needed to be the rock. This is his second bad outing in a row. Just his last start at Washington, a no decision, but in 3 innings, he gave up 7 hits and 6 earned runs. They really need him to be the established rock at the top of this rotation, and he hasn't been over the last couple of starts, guys.
Well, he certainly didn't get any help defensively tonight, or for that matter, from, in one particular instance, his base runner. So Clay Condrey will make his 11th appearance. First time he's ever faced the Mets. Reyes is at third with Paul Lo Duca, the batter. 6-0. 0-1.
Condry's mostly been a starter in the minor leagues, so that's why you'd call him in this position. Only in the third inning, he can maybe take you deeper into the game.
Condry was picked up a couple of years ago from the San Diego Padres.
Sinker, slider, split finger from Clay Condry.
Just some shoddy defensive play and running the bases by the Phillies 2 nights in a row, and seen a little bit of the dog in him here tonight, to be honest with you. And that's a strong term, but I can't think of anything else, Howie.
And Chase Utley throws out LaDuca. Phillies are looking very much like the Diamondbacks did against the Mets over the weekend. That's what these bats will do to you. And so in the middle of the third, it is 6-0 New York. And with rain in the forecast, this Duck wants to get through this in a hurry. The last Met to drive in at least 1 run in more than 8 consecutive games? That's your answer, or at least that's your question. And just get the answer. We'll have it for you later. Delgado has now driven in runs in 8 straight games. Greg Beltran now has done it in 7. We're looking for the last one.
You know, Howie, we brought the point up. You asked Ronnie about games like this. Now it's 6-0. Now you don't throw the ball around the horn. You get the out. You try to get 5 in. You got a 6-run lead. You go and try to put it away.
Be interesting now to see if that happens. 1-1 to Chris Coast. 0 for 8 in his major league career, but he's a great story. He's 33 years old, and he is up for the first time in the major leagues. 2-1 pitch. Millage. 1 out. Millage to Reyes. Does Duque get it back? No, they're going around the horn.
If there's a strikeout, then you don't do the horn. You know, because that goes all the way around. We'll see. It might be something that's forgotten today, like a lot of things.
Well, here's Condry. I started to make a point before that I had asked Willie yesterday if, you know, having played for all the good teams that he played for and coached for, you get to a point with an evolving club where you go from thinking you're good to knowing you're good, and therefore wanting not only to win but to dominate. And he kind of gave a 2-part answer. He says, oh yeah, you definitely get to that point where you know you're good, but it's only in retrospect. When you look back, you don't really sort of feel it at the time, he said. But about dominating, he said, yeah, that's something he wants to see this team do with regard to, let's say, sweeping series. They've won a lot of series, but most of them have been 2 out of 3.
So it's Willie's,
3 out of 4.
Willie's way of challenging this ball club.
Right, exactly. So he said. 1 ball, 2 strike. Now remember, to the chagrin of the Fanatic, if the Mets win this one, they have a 6-0 lead, they would be 8.5 games up. And it's only the 14th of June. 2 away, and around the horn they go.
And that's why this game particularly, and here's the Condry, the pitcher, goes after the, we'll talk about El Duque expanding the strike zone. There's a pitch that starts out a strike and breaks out for a ball. That's why this game was so critical, getting back to the point, Howie, for the Phillies to win. I mean, they're looking at it being 8.5 back and getting swept tomorrow.
Well, I think they had to come into this game saying, hey, we have to have this one in tomorrow's, and they still would have been 5.5 back. But the Mets are just, train kept it rolling, you know?
And don't you just feel, Ronnie, that El Duque in a pennant, well, the team that's in the pennant, that's a good team that has a chance, that he's got his focus, and he's going to pitch well.
This one's deep to right, gone if it's fair, and it is gone. And so Jimmy Rollins has his 3rd home run in the last 2 games. Not a focus problem, I don't think, just the long ball.
I thought it was a pretty good pitch. We'll look at it again shortly. Tried to come in with a fastball, Ron. Nope, like I got over the middle, didn't
That's pretty center right there.
Yep. They made a boo-boo.
So 6-1 Mets. And Chase Utley takes a strike. Rollins now with 9 home runs on the year. And the curveball low.
And you know, we shouldn't really get too far about the long way to go in this game. We've seen what the Phillies can do in this ballpark. 5 home runs last night.
Two and one. Rogers Center is in Toronto. The Mets will be there later this month. Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, where Adam Dunn homered in, what was it, the 12th inning today, I think. 11th or 12th.
11th.
To win it for the Reds, the only scoring of the game. 3-run homer. Adam Dunn the reason. 2-2 pitch. And Utley hits one deep to right center. And that's off the wall. And now Utley thinking about 3, puts on the brakes, and will hold on at second. That ball was smoked by a guy who's been struggling lately.
Well, El Duque hurt on 2 fastballs here. The fastball down the middle, the Rollins here, and then a ball up and out over the outer half. And Utley would go for 3 here if this team wasn't down 5 runs. He's got to play defensive. Cannot get thrown out. End the inning.
Pretty well-schooled player, too, Chase Utley. I like his instincts.
I love Chase Utley as a player.
And now Abreu, who misplayed Reyes' triple, allowing a run to score in the 3rd. So the homer and the double, the first 2 hits against El Duque. Curve for a strike. He's had a pretty good curveball in the game in Phoenix. He had a phenomenal curveball. All his breaking pitches in Phoenix.
What was great about those breaking balls that he changed speeds on it too. He had a hard one that he threw for a strike, a real slow one, kind of get me over curveball. That one's took a little off.
Well, he's got hurt on the fastball. He went to 2 breaking balls. And what's so good about his off speed, that real slow curve he throws, it's not a rainbow curve. It's got bite, which means he's got to get a lot of spin on it. Fanatic.
And he gave him a fastball 0-2, fouled away.
See Le Duca there shaking his head. He wanted that fastball up in the strike zone. That ball was more center, and Le Duca shook his head. Come on now. You need that ball a little higher. Watch. See that ball's right down the middle? Le Duca gave him a little. Come on now, El Duque. Let's hit the spots.
Fanatic's eating well.
That's what he wanted. Up and in.
Nothing wrong with that pitch. Just spin the hitter a little bit.
Absolutely.
Let him know that that inside corner is yours, and then usually up and in usually means soft stuff away.
It's fair game.
Curveball line the other way, foul. Of nothing else, El Duque working harder in this inning than he did in the first 2. Pitch count now up to 53. A little less than half of what he threw in his complete game in Phoenix his last time out.
Well, Paul Le Duca, he doesn't need Berlitz this year. With Soler, Pedro Martinez, Orlando Hernandez, he's going to be fluent in Spanish by the end of the year.
So 1-2. Into center. Here comes Utley, and it's 6-2. 3 straight 2-out hits for the Phillies.
Well, I think Ronnie hit it on the head here. Pretty good at bat by Abreu here. After the up and in fastball stays in on 2 curveballs away. That's nice hitting. Beltran, of course, Utley, who runs well, has no chance. And this is a brand new ball game and a long way to go.
And now the rain comes. I don't know if you can make it through the lights there, but it is now raining. And this game a long way from being official. With a home team trailing, you've got to go 5 full. The home team's ahead 4.5.
Keith, what did you do this winter? Were you a bad boy or something? You get all the rain.
All the extra inning games.
You're the mutter this year. He used to call the starting pitcher if he's one, it would rain on his day. There was always one mutter during the season.
I know I love this game, but this is enough is enough.
Abreu running down 4 runs, and the throw goes into center field, and he'll get to third. Whoa. Down 4, he better have been safe. But the throwing error by LaDuca sends him all the way to third.
Oh, a little surprise here. Playing aggressive, the Phillies, not going to let it sit. And he had to throw beat. The throw's up the line into the runner. Tough chance for Reyes.
Not a happy man. 2-1 to Howard. So the Mets have now made 2 errors. Howard was the guy who reached on the other one when Delgado bobbled a ground ball. And Rowan hoping he gets a chance here in the third as the Phillies are climbing back in. Ball 3. Abreu leading down the line, and the 3-1 pitch. Popped up the curveball. Beltran got a late start. Reyes is there too, and it's Reyes to make the play. So that retires the side. The Phillies get 2 back, all with 2 men out and nobody on. Rollins goes deep. And we head to the 4th. 6-2 New York. We head to the 4th inning with rain falling, and so the duck will get a little more wet while we tell you who the last Met to drive in at least a run in more than 8 straight games was. It was Fonzie, who's been released twice now in the last couple of weeks. The Angels and then the Blue Jays have turned him loose. Good luck to a good guy. I hope if he wants to stay in this game at the active level, he does. And if not, all good things to Edgardo Alfonzo. Fastball high to Beltran.
Well, he just went fast, didn't he? From being one of the premier players in the game to just going south quick.
Surprised the Blue Jays released him as quickly as they did. He was only hitting about 100. I mean, literally about 100 for the Angels when they released him. He had some night in Houston some years ago, and he went 6 for 6 with 3 homers. Beltran shoots one past Howard, and that'll be an extra base hit. Abreu up with it. Beltran's got a leadoff double. And the Mets, who have scored in every inning so far, threatening again.
Well, tough chance for Howard. We know he's not fleet of foot, not the greatest of fielders. He's a slugger, but nice effort. And the Mets just keep putting the hammer down.
You know, one of the reasons, among many millions, if you remember the numbers on his contract, that the Phillies traded Jim Thome was because they could not have Thome and Howard on the same ball club. Neither one could go to the outfield. And you saw Howard's lack of range, as you have in some of the games that you've seen this year between these teams, and you get an idea why.
Well, it reminds me of the Giants when I was a kid growing up, and you had McCovey in left field and Cepeda at first. They traded Cepeda to the Cardinals in when the offseason after the '66 season.
For Ray Sadecki.
Ray Sadecki, who won 20 in '66, I believe. I think he did. And Cepeda was MVP in '67. Stretch went on to play first for many more years in San Francisco.
So that worked out for everyone. Delgado fouls it 1-1. RBI double in the first, struck out in the second. So again, he's now driven in runs in 8 straight games with Edgardo Alfonzo, the only other Met to do it. Right up the middle and on into center. Here comes Beltran, and the Mets get one of those 2 runs right back. It's 7-2. That's incredible. I mean, you get the feeling when the other guys score that no big deal. The Mets will just pick that up and maybe more.
It's just like, oh yeah, we'll take that. A little out in front in that sinker, not a bad pitch, but stayed back. It's been quite a display.
But they're not even building runs. I mean,
No.
leadoff homers, extra base hits.
It's almost like they can score at will, as you can see the weather coming in here to Citizens Bank Park.
The wind's starting to blow in now. We could feel it here in the booth as Wright fouls it off.
Keith, does it amaze you that the Mets in Arizona, I know you watch the games, here in Philadelphia, the Mets are hitting like they're hitting, and not one person has been thrown inside or tried to have their feet moved a little bit?
Feet moved. Like lose their helmets, you know, getting out of the way.
David Wright to Bell. Utley to Howard, a double play. The Phillies turn that nicely, 5-4-3. 2 out, nobody on.
Well, Taylor made double play. Ball hit hard by Wright, just not down the line enough. Another hang with him for David. Nice play by Bell. But when I say lose his helmet, kids out there, I don't mean throw at his head. I mean, when you flip someone really good and put him on his back, he's going to lose his helmet.
Helmet goes, bat goes, feet are up in the air. And certainly not saying that you want anyone to throw at the Met hitters. That's not what we're saying. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if it was reversed, if the Mets were on the receiving end and Philadelphia was doing this, you would hope that your pitchers would say, enough's enough, guys, now. Let's not get crazy. We're not going to take this kind of pounding, I'll tell you that.
It's just no longer in today's game.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. It wasn't when in our day of playing, and it certainly was back in the 60s and the 50s.
Is it to do with money? Everybody's making so much money they don't want to take anything out of anybody else's pocket, or does it have anything to do with the fact that the transient nature of this game suggests that they're all union brothers now? They all, there's a camaraderie there. There's a camaraderie among players that did not used to exist.
Well, there's an old term in baseball called country clubbers. Some clubs are country club clubhouses. They said where they had all the most clubhouses in the old days, or when we played, were Spartan. Today, we would look at the clubhouses today and go, that's a country clubhouse.
Valentine to the hole. Nice play by Howard. Side retired. So the Mets tack one on, and in the middle of the fourth, with the rain falling, Mets are leading. If you were with us last night, we were excited by David Wright's spectacular double play. How did it sound in the other booth, though? Hall of Famer Harry Kalas in the Phillies booth.
Hard ground ball. What a play by Wright. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? What a sensational play by David Wright.
That's a great call.
That's a great broadcaster.
Yes.
Harry Kalas in the Hall of Fame has been with the Philadelphia Phillies since the early 1970s. In fact, he was the MC at the first and the last game ever played at Old Veterans Stadium. And he is a part of Philadelphia sports lore. He's that beloved here.
That team was a Richie Aspern and Harry all those years.
Yeah. 30 years, I think it was, or close to it, that they worked together.
Richie Aspern, of course, one of the great gentlemen.
Base hit, Aaron Rowan. So that starts the bottom of the fourth with the rain falling, a little heavier than it was before, and not yet an official game. Well, there's an original Met and a long-time Philly, now a Hall of Famer as well, the late Richie Ashburn. He and Harry were very, very close.
Well, this city went into mourning when Richie Ashburn died. It was just a crushing blow. It is starting to pour here.
Fastball high and tight to DeLucci. And all these runs are nowhere near being official. And the way it's starting to rain now, they may not have a whole lot. Well, they may be stopping it right now.
That's Randy Marsh, the crew
Yep.
chief on first base. He's calling everyone off. Put the tarp on before it gets too wet. Rain delay.
So, with a day game scheduled for tomorrow, and this one not nearly official, the tarp will go on the field, and certainly the Mets are extremely hopeful that they'll be able to resume this game. Now, El Duque has thrown 63 pitches to this point, so Willie Randolph may have a conundrum when and if this game resumes.
Well, if you're El Duque, my goodness, you got a 5-run lead. You want to get 5, be the pitcher of record.
You'd have to drag me somewhere to get me out of this game.
It's the same thing, Howie. If you look at Willie talking with Randy Marsh, if you're in a rain delay and it's not official and you're 3 for 3 with 5 RBIs, it's like, oh, please, please, let up. You're 0 for 3. Well, you know, I can get rained out.
It's raining pretty hard out there.
I'll play a doubleheader later in the year.
Yeah, the guys with all the hits will be looking at the radar every 2 minutes, huh? David's already had 2, including a home run. And this is the forecast tonight for showers. And so we have no way of knowing whether this is a passing system or something that's going to stick around for a while. And all that hitting the Mets did early might have wound up costing them a bit because they were not able to get through 5. So the rain comes with nobody out, and the Phillies with a runner on first in the bottom of the 4th inning. The Mets leading 7-2. We'll be back in a moment. We have been in this rain delay for a little more than a half hour, just about 35 minutes now, and it continues to come down here at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. I'm Howie Rose along with Ron Darling, Keith Hernandez, and Chris Cotter. Gary Cohen continues to recover and miss all the wet stuff. And we hope Gary will be back on Friday night when the Mets return home to face the Orioles. So, still a rain delay with the Mets leading the Phillies. And to better entertain you, let's send you to an ultimate Mets classic. Well, if only the rain came and went this quickly, El Duque would still be in the game. But as the grounds crew have worked in double time to get the thing ready, it's going to be just about an hour between pitches. And it will be Darren Oliver rather than Orlando Hernandez, with the Phillies batting in the bottom of the 4th inning, and the Mets trying to hold and perhaps even extend a 7-2 lead.
Well, you know what's sad is that they had such great momentum, didn't they, in the early part of this game? That's been washed away with the rain. But hopefully Darren Oliver can come in. Aaron Rowan, of course, hit a single off El Duque in the 4th, so he'll be on first base. And a lot of lefties in that lineup, so hopefully it'll bode well for Oliver.
Well, a lot of switch hitters on the bench for Charlie Manuel's Phillies, and Roberson and Victorino and Abraham Nunez. But this is Oliver's role. He is really their middle man that can go deep and really chew up innings.
And Clay Condrey is the guy who was in the game for the Phillies when the rain came, and evidently he's going to be back on the mound when we move to the 5th inning. Remember, this is not yet an official game. If the home team is trailing, you've got to get through 5 full. And if the home team leads at the end of 4½, it is deemed official. And here's how we have gotten to this point.
Well, El Duque had his good breaking ball working early. He got touched up for a couple of runs in the 3rd, but Keith, Delgado hot again.
And Delgado coming out of his slump, and that's a sure sign right there. He drives into the loop with that double. David Wright just continues to wear it out. Look at that off-field power. 15, 20 rows deep. He's just having a phenomenal year. And Chavez again contributing. This was a triple over Aaron Rowan's head. How about you take it?
How about Jose Reyes? No, but this play right here, Bobby Abreu, that's a play that should be made. I mean, he got a Gold Glove last year, and when you get a Gold Glove, that play should be made.
I agree. We've seen him enough now, Howie, coming here to Philly over the last few years, to know that he doesn't like that wall at all.
So he's got a little fear in that, going up against that wall.
Yeah, that fence out in right field is actually fronted with some, I guess it's chicken wire. And the ball will take some crazy caroms off of that. Now that's where Aaron Rowan went into when he collided with that fence that was not yet padded at the top after the ball hit by Xavier Nady. But then when you move to right field, and you look at where the out-of-town scoreboard is, and that's where Abreu seems very tentative going back. Yeah, you can make out that chicken wire there, and that's going to create some odd caroms from time to time. But right at the bottom, that is cement. That is hard cement, and that not only can produce balls shooting hard off of it, but that could take an ankle or two along the way.
Well, there's DeLuca right there getting a start. David Wright. See, everybody's all smiles on that Mets side. They're just everything's going their way. They're just playing terrific baseball.
If they can't enjoy the way they've been hitting, it's tough to please anyone. But right now, the Mets with a 7-2 lead, and the game about to resume when we come back in a moment. Of course, as well as the Mets have been playing, they might like to stay on the road a little bit longer, but nothing doing there. They'll be back at Shea for an interleague matchup against the Baltimore Orioles Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon. And then it's Ken Griffey Jr. and the Reds beginning Monday night, June 19th, right through the 22nd. That game on the 22nd, a 1:10 start. So go to Mets.com for your print-at-home tickets. Of course, you got to buy them first, then you could print them, but modern technology makes things easier on every level.
They're not for free?
No, sorry. Buy them and then print them. Chris Cotter is standing by with all sorts of rain delay minutia because you've had all this time to gather it up, right?
That's exactly right. Well, I had part of the time to enjoy a Philly cheesesteak. Ron, thanks a lot for sharing yours with me. But I'll tell you what these guys do during rain delays, and it's pretty much a lot of nothing. I mean, they're bored to tears. They go back into the clubhouse. They play a lot of cards, play some video games here and there, watch some TV. There are a lot of soccer fans in with this team, so they're watching World Cup games. But they're really answered the bit to get back out here and play. Now, the bullpen here at Citizens Bank Park out here in center field is a little bit different than in many other parks in the fact that you can't walk from the bullpen back to the clubhouse through the tunnels underneath the stadium. You have to come across center field. So, you know, through the rain delay, some of the pitchers came across, went to the dugout, and a lot of Mets fans have obviously made the trip from northern New Jersey and from New York down here to Philadelphia to watch the game. And guys like Feliciano and Heilman and even Billy Wagner signed a lot of autographs here during the rain delay before they went in the clubhouse, because once you get into that clubhouse, you're just sitting around and basically doing nothing.
Now, they didn't let you in the clubhouse, I assume, right?
No, and especially not with this jacket.
No.
They just told me I had to stay out in the rain.
I thought maybe he'd be able to infiltrate one of the card games and we could find out who's playing what.
You know, I will say this, too, about these card games. Carlos Beltran was playing cards today, and this is how hot of a hitter he's been and how much he doesn't want to change anything. He was playing cards with his batting gloves on. So I guess he figures, hey, it's worked for me at the plate. Maybe it'll work for me at the card table.
You can't mark him with any kind of pine tar, can you?
Very suspicious behavior. That would not fly in our clubhouse.
What was your game of choice in the clubhouse?
Oh, I was a terrible card player.
That didn't stop you, did it?
No, it didn't. I learned to play hearts because I think it's a great card game, and that's the one thing I miss most about being out of baseball and as a player and a team and on the airline flights is I miss playing the cards with the guys.
How about you, Ronnie? Hearts?
No, not originally. When I first came to the team, my mother, when I was a kid, she loved bridge. So she taught me how to play bridge. And when I first came to the team, Seaver, Kiner, McCarver, some of those guys would play bridge. And if one of them was going to fly earlier or later, they would allow me to play in the game, which was really nice occasionally. But hearts and spades, and then we had a couple of guys that would play blackjack against each other also.
Euchre.
A
game called Euchre. I never understood it.
Well, you have to go sit in the worst seat in the house and play solitaire or something? How does that work?
Exactly.
Well, if they ever start playing Mahjong, then we know we're in trouble. But it hasn't come to that yet. And so with the rain having delayed proceedings for about an hour, we're just about set to go. And Willie Randolph looked very concerned, as you would imagine, when the crew chief, Randy Marsh, decided to put the tarp on. And Randy went right to Willie and presumably gave him as detailed a forecast as he had available to him. And, you know, from Willie's expression, it didn't seem as though he was sold that the front was going to pass through in time to get this game resumed, but it has. And Darren Oliver has completed his warm-up tosses, and now the Mets will go back to business. What has been a very profitable business for them on this homestand or road trip. The homestand begins Friday night. Carlos Delgado, Aaron Rowan. Rowan led off with a base hit, and then the rain became too hard to play through. And so David DeLucci will face a left-hander, and that's news. DeLucci is a pure left-hand hitter, and they don't let him face left-hand pitching. This will be his first appearance, and right away it's 0-1. First appearance against a left-hand thrower.
And we're in June. That's amazing.
1 hour and 5 minutes total rain delay. That's pulled into the glove of Delgado. Outstanding play by Carlos. And he takes the sure out at first as Rowan moves to second.
Well, everything. They're just playing so terrific. Nice backhand by Delgado. Could have made the force out, opted for the conservative play at first. I'm not going to question him there. Nice play.
Now, even though these guys come out and they do a little stretching after the rain, it doesn't replicate their usual pregame preparation. How difficult is it to be quick the way he just was when you've essentially been playing cards for an hour?
Well, you make sure you come back out and you stretch all over again. It's like a second game of a doubleheader. You do your whole routine over, you do your stretching, you're running, and you're ready to go. You're kind of like in first gear for a little bit. Then you kind of just slowly get back into the flow of it again.
But you saw after holding the runner on, he came off that bag in beautiful ready position, ready for a ball to be hit at him.
So now David Bell with a little pop-up that'll reach the seats. And it's 0-2. That's Chris Coast still looking for his first big league hit at the age of 33.
You know, kind of a wasted start for El Duque with this rain, but I'm very impressed with his stuff. I'm impressed with his fastball, which has been an 89, 90, and his breaking pitches and his control. I think he is going to, if he can stay healthy. You see Sam Holbrook telling David Bell that ball ticked his bat. Foul tip into the mid, strike 3.
And so Bell down on strikes, and Oliver's got a good start. 2 away. And now Coast.
How about you, Keith? Are you impressed with El Duque's stuff? I mean, he's throwing the ball well. I think that if he stays healthy, he can really help this team.
I think that he threw the ball where they're jawing right now down there in the dugout. His whole Sam Holbrook, home plate umpire, is telling Charlie he's going to run him.
Oh, Manuel's gone. Now he's going to get his money's worth.
And I think he's trying to fire up his team here. Yeah.
Patience has to be running thin for Charlie right now anyway. The way the Phillies played his first game and a little bit.
Well, Manuel's gone. Just getting a few more words in.
Well, we'll see if it's anything close to a. Boy, I just don't know how if he did foul tip it, but I guess he felt he did, or he would call it a strike.
Well, it's, yeah, the pitch was a good pitch. So, I mean, too close to take anyway for David Bell.
So Manuel will hand the lineup card to Gary Varsho, who is the bench coach. Unless somebody else was run, because Charlie's not going anywhere yet. But he's got to leave the dugout.
He has got to leave the dugout.
He's gone. Sam Holbrook may go down those steps and follow him into the clubhouse.
At his own peril.
Yeah, well, once it's out of the view of the cameras, draw your own conclusions. So here's Coast with 2 out. Sounded like he broke his bat. And Valentin finishes him off. Good job by Oliver. He picks up 3 quick outs. We go to the 5th, 7-2 New York.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Sterling Mats and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Sterling Mats.
Well, Keith and Ron are throwing a party here in Philadelphia, and there are about a dozen of their closest friends who also call themselves Flash's followers. Now, Tom Flash Gordon is the closer here in Philadelphia. And so there's the connection.
There's Space Ghost.
To the 5th inning, And Endy Chavez, strike one. Bottom third for the Mets, Chavez, Millage, and Darren Oliver. Mets have scored in each of the first 4 innings. Clay Condrey delivers. Chavez going for a high fastball. A little bit out of the strike zone.
Ronnie, a little strange. They bring Condrey back in after an inning in the third.
I find that very strange, especially a relief pitcher. You know, their pen, a lot of people in that pen, their pen is strong also, the Phillies.
Yeah, as a bullpen, they have the lowest ERA in the majors. Near the feet of Endy.
Jeff Geary on the right end company.
Collectively, that's a 3.10 earned run average, and a little closer to Chavez. 2-2.
Well, this is the split finger from Chris Condrey. Little dancing by Endy Chavez. Quick on his feet.
Well, 6 outs from an official ball game. The Mets with a 5-run lead. I don't think there's going to be any more rain tonight. I think it's pushed through.
Well, I hope you're right. We don't need any double headers tomorrow, if in fact that's what they would do. Mets will be here for 4 more games in August, and that'll be it in terms of visits to Philadelphia. Right to Chase Utley. 1 away. And again, Chavez going hard down the line. Good to see. And the Hyundai in-game box shows you again a pretty good distribution of offensive contributions.
Well, the Mets have been up in 4 frames. The first 4 frames, they've scored 2, 1, 3, and 1. So they've scored every inning.
Look at that. I mean, Valentin's the only one of the starters without a hit. And we're just halfway through this game.
And you're in the 5th inning, and Valentin in the 6th position has already had 3 at-bats.
Mets have had a few games like that recently. Millage, a little pop, and Utley going a long way and can't make the play. That ball had way too much hang time not to have been caught.
Well, there's some wind here. It just seemed like the ball swirled and just fooled Utley, and he used 2 hands. He just did it hit his glove, the palm of his mitt, the heel? That's embarrassing.
Ryan Howard was running out to second base. They crisscrossed. Utley going after the ball and Howard going towards second.
Well, that's an error charge to Utley. It's the 3rd Philly error.
The error for prolonging the time at bat. But now another chance. This time Howard puts it away.
See the wind picking up a little bit. Cooled off a bit, huh, Howie?
Yeah, especially when that wind blows straight in. But it's dry and they're playing.
You know what's great about Darren Oliver coming in? He's also a very good hitter. So if he's in for many innings, he gets a couple at bats, he can help you.
0-1 to Oliver.
Right now, Willie Randolph would like to get her maybe around 4 innings out of him. 3 minimum, 4 max. Just take it, get it to the probably Sanchez's turn tonight.
Oliver rips it the other way, but Abreu grabs it. And the Mets go in order. Not yet official, but 3 outs away from that as we head to the last of the 5th.
Matt Yaloff here with a Chevrolet Baseball Night New York update. The Braves at the Marlins, or how about the Yankees and the Indians? And Randy Johnson hitting Eduardo Perez. Johnson nails him and is ejected after the bench is cleared. Joe Torre also tossed from the game. 6-1 Yankees in the 9th. Now the Braves and the Marlins. Top of the 3rd, score tied at 1. Marcus Giles facing Dontrelle Willis, a solo shot. The Braves were up, but thanks to 2 homers by Wes Helms, it's now 5-5 in the 8th. Howie.
The Braves with all kinds of problems, especially in their bullpen. Atlanta came into this game trailing the Mets by 11 in the National League East. Well, if the Mets hold on here, still a long way to go, they would be 8.5 ahead of the Phillies, and depending on what happens to Atlanta, 11 or 12 ahead of them, and more daylight being spread as Abraham Nunez takes the curveball low. Nunez batting for Clay Condrey, and it's been a real struggle for Nunez this year.
And Nunez, who played so well last year in St. Louis when Scott Rowland was out most of the year, he just did a phenomenal job at third base for the Cardinals.
Well, with Nunez's problems here, the Phillies are really in the market for a reserve middle infielder. Alex Gonzalez retired earlier this year. Nunez isn't getting it done, and the Phillies can use a little help as far as backup infielders go.
Well, with that great year he had last year, he was able to sign a 2-year contract here in Philadelphia.
Well, he's the only middle infielder on the bench, so they haven't got very many options for Charlie Manuel to give Rollins or Utley a rest. Rollins and Utley have both played 65 games this year. Out of the 65 games.
Still 2-2 on Nunez. Oliver will then see Rollins and Utley here in the 5th inning.
Well, that's pretty doggone good, isn't it?
And don't forget, there have been a couple of complete games which have allowed the bullpen to get a little rest, which was so sorely needed. Jose Reyes vacuums it up. 1 away. Nunez grounds out. It'll bring up Rollins. Clay Condrey done after 2 1/3 innings, giving up 2 hits and a run. Didn't walk anybody, didn't strike anybody out. Rollins turning around, batting right-handed. Didn't bother him last night. He hit 2 home runs from the right side. And it's 1-1. Rollins has 8 homers, 3 of them right-handed, and that's Brian Sanchez, who also pitched last night, getting set to work the 6th. Ball 2.
Well, there's not many times where you'll hit 6 home runs in a little over a game, as the Phillies have done. Your leadoff hitter will have 3 home runs, and you'll be not close in the, well, you were close in the first game. They came back, but not close in the second game. It's amazing. Shows you how strong the Mets have been.
The Phillies hit a lot of home runs. You'll do that playing every game in this ballpark. They're 3rd in the league in homers. That's a foul ball. So a full count. Chase Utley waiting his turn. Rain is just about stopped. Foul to the screen. There might be a little bit of a mist still coming down, but easy to play through this right now. And if there's any mist, it's very, very light. Not taking any chances. So Rollins aboard, and Oliver allows his first base runner. One more on what has been a glorious road trip for the Mets. That'll be tomorrow afternoon. Hope you can join us on SNY at 1. Rest of the Jeep upcoming schedule. Mets and Orioles at Shea. Interleague play again. And a chance for Willie Randolph to distribute his offense a little bit in terms of who he rests and who he gives some extra at-bats to.
Well, in his press conference before the game, or as I should say his meeting, informal meeting with the writers, and you were there, Howie, of course, he mentioned maybe Delgado will do some DHing and get Franco out there to play a little first base and get him some at-bats.
Julio can desperately use some more at-bats, and the Orioles are scheduled to start 2 left-handers. A strike to Utley. Eric Bedard, a left-hander, will face Alain Soler Friday night. Chris Benson returns to Shea to face Pedro Martinez on Saturday. That'll be fun. and then left-hander Adam Lowen against Tom Glavine on Sunday. So a couple of chances to get Franco's bat in there. Just a couple steps back for Beltran. 2 away.
Well, we saw Bedard, Eric Bedard, pitch in spring training, and boy, does he throw hard. He's got some good stuff. I don't know what kind of year he's having. He hasn't been on my radar screen. Probably should be.
He's gotten off to a slow start, as have the Orioles gotten off to a slow start.
5-6 with a 5.69. That doesn't cut it, does it?
Well, it's hard to win with that team, though. That team is not a very good team.
How about pitching in that ballpark?
Yeah, and
it's a bandbox, isn't it?
Well, we showed the home runs before. That's one of the top 5. I think it was number 3.
0-1 to Abreu. Yeah, the first of the new bandboxes with the retro feel.
And Adam Lowen, who pitches on Sunday, is a great talent, young pitcher, counting on for a lot of wins for Sam Palazzo and his staff.
One and one. Mets will be at Rogers Center in Toronto later this month.
You've got power hitters there. You can got Adam Dunn in the number 2 park there in Cincinnati.
You know, Keith, if you have a small ballpark, you got to have either pitchers who can strike out batters or guys that throw ground balls. One or the other. You can't have fly ball pitchers in those kind of ballparks. It's going to make for a long year.
Well, when I was coming up early in my career in the 70s, the Cubs always had sinker ball pitchers for Wrigley Field, right-hand sinker ballers.
Right-hand sinker balls, and they let that grass grow like the U.S. Open rough.
They absolutely did. And Bill Buckner lost so many. I used to go there and laugh, and unless this happened to me, I lost a few base hits there myself. But Buckner would come and just, I play 81 games here. I cannot tell you how many base hits I lose because it's grass.
1-2 to Abreu. And a throw over. Remember when they had that left side of the infield of Ron Cey at third and Larry Boa at short? Older, a little bit slower. The grass was rather high.
Well, you would see infielders at Wrigley Field, good infielders, the ball hit sharply, and they'd be on their heels because they couldn't believe it would take that long to get to them.
Oliver paying a lot of attention to Rollins here with a 7-2 lead.
Old Wingfoot. U.S. Open.
You played Wingfoot all the way back, too, didn't you?
Or it played me.
Rollins not going, and Abreu fouls it off.
It's going to be an interesting U.S. Open because there's been so much written about the Mickelson versus Tiger. New Yorkers have really taken to Mickelson since the Open at Bethpage. Tiger, of course, father recently passed away in May. This is his first tournament since then. Father's Day falls on the last day of the tournament. It's just a lot of interesting stories for this U.S. Open in New York.
So 2 lesser knowns will probably end up going head-to-head final few holes on Sunday. Unless it does work out the way everybody plans.
Well, when I played Wingfoot, I played with Rusty's, Big Orange, and Big Orange has a horrible short game and hits the ball around over 300 yards. So we got to play the back tees. It's no fun.
You have to because of him?
When you're a snap hook like me, it's no fun.
I don't listen. If there's no windmill or clown's nose involved, I got no chance myself. So you're not talking about something I could relate to. Abreu to shallow left. Here comes Millage, but it falls in. So this is still not yet an official game. And Ryan Howard coming up.
Well, it's a cutter. And Abreu likes to step in the bucket. Looks like he's bailing, but he keeps his hands back. Sometimes he just doesn't stay in. And you can watch. Well, he's not really. Watch his front foot. Look at where he's striding. That's not stepping straight ahead. Look at, he's got his fanny flying out. But he keeps the hands back. Is able to get the bat and the ball. He stays level.
He has that ability to keep his upper body in there, though. Even though his lower body is gone, his upper body somehow stays in the zone.
Well, Ryan Howard with great power to all fields. He was looking to go deep. 0-1.
He's got to dial it up a notch. You got thrown right by him right there.
Well, he has a hole there. I mean, it's easier said than done to throw the ball there all the time, but he has a hole right in between his belt and his letters, inside part of the plate.
LaDuca leaning away here. So it's a breaking ball, 0-2.
You know, sometimes a hitter's strength becomes his weakness. Because he has a slight uppercut, because he has great power to left field, naturally he's going to have a hole inside.
And up.
And up.
Just like Tomey used to do, point that bat towards the pitcher. Got him! Darren Oliver strikes out Ryan Howard, and this is finally an official game. Almost 3 hours after it started. So we head to the 6th. Finally an official game. We go to the 6th with the Mets leading 7-2, and between innings, the Fanatic in the midst of more hijinks. Yeah, like a Met fan would fall for this nonsense.
Oh! Smoked him.
He's obviously been away from the training table.
Looks like Burgess Meredith. He looks like two-ton Tony Galenta.
Reyes takes a strike from Brian Sanchez, who becomes the 3rd Phillies pitcher. Just his 5th game. Recalled 4 days ago from Scranton, 2nd time he's been up. And it's 0-2. Do you believe Stallone's making another Rocky movie?
I do.
He's 60-something years old. He killed off Adrian for no good reason.
Whoa.
That's just not right. And a little looper. And Reyes has a leadoff hit. His 3rd hit of the ball game. Well, I don't know if those were really Rocky's footprints or not, but those are the old cons. Those are old Chuck Taylor All-Stars right there.
Chuck Taylor high tops.
Man, I couldn't sleep before I got my first pair of cons as a kid.
You know, my parents, we used to go, my dad was still in the National Guard. We used to go to the commissary and buy them. We used to have the irregulars. So you'd get the Chuck Taylors. They're only $8, but they'd have 10 eyelets on one side and 6 eyelets on the other to lace your shoes up.
It's a savings.
Yes.
Reyes chased back to 1st. LaDuca looking to see if a play's on, and there are many options with Reyes aboard and LaDuca at the plate. Reyes leading the majors in steals. He's on his way, and from his knees, Coast throws out Reyes. How about that?
Unbelievable. Look at this.
Tony Pena.
Tony Pena and then Santiago.
Benito Santiago.
He used to catch with San Diego. He used to throw from the knees like that. That's impressive.
So Reyes caught stealing. And 1 out, nobody on now for LaDuca.
Wow.
Slider away. Well, it's time for the Best of Barbados vacation getaway. If the Mets hit a home run, one grand prize winner will win an all-expense-paid trip to the Almond Beach Village Resort in Barbados. David Wright sent somebody there last night. Bell handles that and throws out LaDuca, 2 men away. To enter or to see if you are a contestant, visit sny.tv/Barbados today. So 2 out, nobody on for Beltran, who has now driven in a run in 7 straight games, and he has scored a run in 9 straight games. Way inside. Beltran now on a 7-game hitting streak after that 4th inning double. And it's 2-0. Well, 10 o'clock, if you're just tuning in, thinking this game ought to be over or close to it, We had a rain delay lasting an hour and 5 minutes in the bottom of the 4th inning. The Mets scored early and often again. Runs in each of the first 4 innings. And they have now scored first inning runs in 7 straight games. 2-2. Delgado waiting his turn. Full count. Sanchez from Texas. He'll turn 28 years of age in August. Ball 4. Second time tonight Beltran has drawn a walk. First time it was with the bases loaded. And now another hot hitter, Delgado. First walk from Sanchez. That average creeping up. I mean, he's already gained about 20, I think it was 21 points on his batting average in just the last few games.
Your batting average doesn't really stabilize until you get around 300, 350, 300 at bats. Then it doesn't fluctuate that much.
Delgado tonight has had 3, so he's now got 245 ABs. Oh, and 1. He was hitting 248 as recently as last Thursday, 6 days ago. Actually 247 2 days before that. And as I look back, even lower than that, 242 when the road trip started. So he's gained 26 points in not too long. So 1-1. Beltran back. The big overshift there. The shortstop Rollins on the second base side and Utley on the grass. Two and one.
You know, Sanchez pitched last night. Probably should have fared better. Gave up that line drive to Julio Franco. Then Chase Utley threw it away past Ryan Howard. And then the ground ball to David Bell, who threw it home. Sal Fasano couldn't handle it, and 2 runs scored.
That was the 6th inning when the Phillies imploded. 5 Met runs came across last night in the inning. And here in the 6th, Sanchez having some 2-out control problems. David Wright waiting on deck.
Do not want to get in a fastball situation to Delgado. You're even cringing, aren't you?
Oh,
because you're thinking it's going to come right now.
You live for 3-1, 2-0. I mean, you live for it. You work for it.
Here it comes. And out to left. But playable for DeLucci. Wind brought that back in a few steps. So the Mets are done in the 6th inning. A hit, 1 left, and it remains 7-2 here in Philadelphia. Be the next junior Metscaster. If you're between the ages of 8 and 14, come to the Sports Authority in Forest Hills, Queens on Saturday, June 17th, or in Westbury, Long Island on Saturday, June 24th from noon to 2 p.m. for your special audition. 10 participants will qualify for the final round held at Shea Stadium. Visit Mets.com or the Sports Authority nearest you for more details. Aaron Rowan against Aaron Oliver, who starts his 3rd inning of work. Rowan and then DeLucci and Bell for the Phillies.
Well, Rowan 1 for 1 tonight, comes into this game hitting only 182 against lefties.
Beltran, a long run, won't reach it. Rowan will hold on at second. And Aaron Rowan is 2 for 2.
Well, he gets the ball out over the pole, and a good pitch on the outside corner, knee high, went right with it. And that one Beltran couldn't get to.
So David DeLucci will bat. Phillies now with 6 hits in the ball game. Remember, El Duque started but did not go long enough to qualify for a win because they couldn't bring him back after an hour rain delay. He went 3+, giving up 4 hits and 2 runs. And now lefty against lefty, and DeLucci takes the strike. Only his second at bat against a left-hand pitcher, and Delgado made a terrific play to rob him of a hit his first time. A smash to Carlos at first. Fastball, 0-2.
For a guy who the Mets thought was not going to make the team out of spring training, he's proved to be a valuable commodity out of that pen, especially as the long man.
Just missed. Yeah, remember the way that all transpired? Pedro Feliciano had been told he made the team, but then an injury, I think it was to Zambrano, right?
There's an injury to Zambrano, and then also Oliver was on the West Coast. I think one of his relatives was sick.
Still 1-2.
And then ended up telling Feliciano that, sorry, kid. They sent him back down. Told Oliver he had made the team, but fortunately, it wasn't too long before Pedro came back as Aaron Fultz up in the bullpen for the Phillies.
DeLucci, the 6th batter in the order, so they could get down to the pitcher spot here. 1-2. The straightaway center, driving Beltran back. Tagging at second and going to third is Rowan, and he just gets in there.
Well, he went for David Wright's deke.
Yes.
Watch Wright deke. It's a strong throw from Beltran. This is a long throw, 1-hop, and you've got to pick up your third base coach. You can't assume.
And you have to slide.
David Wright put his hands up in the air like cut, 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 and it wasn't cut, and he almost got deked. Nice throw by Beltran.
So the Mets will concede the run, traded for an out here as David Bell is the hitter. 0-1. Bell was robbed of a hit in the second inning on a tremendous catch by Beltran. And then the runner at second base, Ryan Howard, was indecisive, eventually went back to tag and was caught in a rundown, run right at by Carlos Delgado, who applied the tag. Just foul. That's why you take a lead in foul territory.
If I was Ryan Howard, I would not watch TV tonight because that's going to be played over and over and over again.
Bell getting a new bat, behind in the count 0-2. This kid's some kind of hitter, though, even if he struggled defensively and on the bases. Going to be a cornerstone of this Phillies franchise for a long time. Oh, and 2 to Bell. Just off the outside corner.
You see the Duca get a new ball, except ball hit the dirt. That's something that happens all the time now. A ball, as soon as it touches the ground, is sent out of play.
One, two. In comes Chavez. He gets a great jump. He's got a good arm. Throw to the plate. Not in time. So a sacrifice fly for David Bell, but Andy did all that he could to make it close.
Well, you're right about that. And his momentum carries him a little bit more to the left. Had to kind of collect himself, but this is a strong 1-hop throw. But too much speed from Rowan there. Nice try.
So 7-3 with 2 out, nobody on. Chris Coast still looking for his first big league hit. He's only waited 33 years and change for it. 1-1. So the count 1-2. Here's Ryan Howard. This is what we talked about a moment ago.
Well, this is called indecision personified. Okay, I'm going to tag up. I'm going to go.
Ryan Howard, the director there.
That wasn't the end of the act. Am I going to go? No, I'm not. Yes, I am. What am I going? Which way did he go, Judge? Which way did he go?
I thought Ryan called that shot to kill the replay just before we showed him getting tagged out. But Bill Webb's too smart for that. So 2-2 to Coast. Full count. Phillies have their pitcher Brian Sanchez on deck, but if Coast reaches base, he'll go to the bench. Doesn't look like he's going to reach. Beltran waiting, and that retires the side. Phillies score a run on a hit. So we go to the 7th here in Philadelphia, 7-3 New York.
Matt Yoloff here with a Chevrolet Baseball Night in New York update. In South Florida, it's the Braves and Marlins, and Wes Helms teeing off with his second home run of the game. The Marlins tie things up and force extra innings, 5-5 in the 10th right now. Yankee Stadium, the Indians down to their final out, and check out Andy Phillips at first base with 2 outs in the 9th, makes an incredible grab into the stands. Yanks take it 6-1. The Yanks are back on track. Howie.
And the Mets will be at Yankee Stadium right at the very end of this month and the first day of July. There's a long way to go before that. It's a pretty tough schedule the Mets have had during the month of June. It won't get a whole lot easier. David Wright fouls it back. The Orioles coming in this weekend, and the Mets will face the Reds, who have cooled off a bit lately but are still contending in the Central. And then those 3 tough American League series on the road: Toronto, Boston, and the Yankees.
3 best teams in the American League East.
Ramon Castro getting ready to pitch the 7th. Not. Wright fouls it off. You know, there was a guy who played with the Mets and the Phillies who was one of those emergency pitchers. I mean, he was an infielder, Desi Relaford, who would occasionally get into a blowout game. Bobby Valentine used Desi to pitch for an inning or 2. David Wright fouls it off. Bobby said he was the best position player he has ever seen on the mound and was hoping to get another chance to use him, but never did. I don't know if you guys ever hit against a position player who might have given you trouble. And I know you're not going to tell me Tommy Hutton, are you?
Tommy Hutton, I took him deep.
Oh, no.
He didn't give me trouble.
No. Okay,
he
good.
tried to get cute and throw me a 3-2 hook, and I took him into the bleachers in St. Louis.
Yeah.
3 ribeye steaks with that, too.
David Wright pops it up. If you're wondering why I know that, I'm embarrassed to tell you. Catch made there by Rowan, 1 away.
Why are you embarrassed?
Well, almost 20 years ago, I played in the Mets fantasy camp. And I knew Tommy a little bit. We were playing against the Phillies fantasy campers. Tommy was a left-handed hitter, and I'm left-handed. And I come into the batter's box. Tommy says, "Timeout." I'm pitching to the lefty. He throws me a curve that starts like it's going for my chin, makes a 90-degree turn and hits the outside corner. I just dropped my bat and laughed because I'd never seen a decent-looking curveball. Here's Valentine, 0-1. So anyway, I have Tommy on my radio show not long after that. And I said, "Tommy, I got to admit, I was pretty impressed. Had you ever gotten into a game that was a blowout?" He said, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, I did. And it was against St. Louis, and I threw Keith Hernandez the same pitch I threw you." So I get all excited. I go, "Really? What did he do with it?" He said he hit it into the bleachers.
2 men on base.
Thank you very much.
That's almost not fair, Max.
Howie, can I tell you something? I hate the rock your world. That was a brutal breaking ball.
It wouldn't have mattered. 3-1. It would. When you don't play at any kind of sophisticated level and you don't see a good breaking ball, curveball, or a good changeup. I mean, Al Jackson did this to us too. I needed the jaws of life to get to, get another swing. But you don't appreciate that unless you're seeing it. And Valentin with a rip down the right field line. See, that's a professional. And he's in at second. All right, what's the fine for a non-player talking about a playing career?
Well, Jose Valentin joins the hit parade, Howie. Got his first hit of the game.
So everybody's in now among the starters, including El Duque, even though he's out of the game.
You know, Howie, talking about players pitching, we had an off day workout in Montreal. Strawberry was working on his hitting. There was a guy there with a gun, and Strawberry was always telling Dwight Gooden, you know, Dwight, you're great, you pitch, but I could throw as hard as you can. I mean, it's not hard to throw 95. I could do that no problem. So we're in Montreal, because Endy Chavez up at the plate, and Straw gets on the mound. He throws about 10 warm-up pitches, and he doesn't break 82 on the gun, and he's out 3 days with a sore arm.
Oh, great.
What we used to call him? Knuckle face?
Knuckle face. Pulled muscle face.
Chavez, knuckle face. That's the second out, and I have never heard that.
Yeah, there are a lot of interesting nicknames on that team.
Consider this an education for everyone. Don't try to hit a curveball if you've never faced one before. And knuckle face?
And if you're knuckle face, don't throw off the mound.
Oh, God.
Although Kevin Mitchell gave Straw the nickname pulled muscle face, because Straw was all muscles. You know what I mean? There was no fat like most people's body. So they called him pulled muscle face.
Well, Lastings Millage will be walked intentionally here. Nobody on deck yet, so we'll see if Darren Oliver is going to hit or not, because Feliciano is starting to throw in the bullpen now.
I got to believe they're going to be a pinch hitter here. Let's see.
He's taking off the gloves.
Yep, it's going to be Mr. Franco.
Why not? Try to add on.
Well, it's a 7-3 ball. 7-3 ball game. It's not out of reach.
Yeah. And like we talked about when they're playing the American League teams in the American League cities, just trying to find some at-bats for Julio Franco. Any chance you get, you want to get him in there.
Well, there were 38,811 who paid their way in. Many of those have left because of the rain, and many who remain are Mets fans who have made the trip. And just heard a smattering of applause for Julio Franco as he came out of the dugout to hit for Oliver. That Phillies fan feeling the pain of her team over the last couple of nights.
Well, actually, the last week they lost 3 out of 4 before this series up in Washington.
Looks like one of those throwback Nick jerseys.
Nick jerseys, yep.
Thrown back to the 1950s.
Yeah.
Pedro Feliciano looks like he's going to be the pitcher to come in. The next inning for the Phillies will be a pinch hitter. Rollins and Utley and Abreu all left-hand hitters, and Ryan, so it does call for a left-hander.
And now Franco with 2 aboard. To right field and deep. Abreu at the wall, can't get it. And that'll score 2. Valentin in. Millage, well, maybe it won't score 2. Millage out at the plate. So the Mets settle for 1 as Franco drove it a long way, and Lastings Millage nailed at the plate. And the inning over.
Yeah, he should not have looked, and nice relay throw for the inning ender.
So the Mets tack 1 on, and it's time to stretch here in Philadelphia. Willie Randolph does not look happy I don't know exactly who that's at. It might be. I was shocked that Millage did not come around from first base and score. He came around and was thrown out.
Well, it's good hustle from Aaron Rowan. Backing up, and Utley with the perfect throw.
Well, Acta was sending him all the way, and you've got now, what, 8-2 lead?
He slowed down there.
He slowed down.
Oh man.
What's he doing? And that's why he didn't score. And that's why Willie's upset. There's 2 outs, you run.
Yeah, with his speed from first base, you got to score on that.
Yeah, that's a not good. That's not good.
And you saw Franco, it cost him an RBI, and he's upset. And Willie Randolph, upon putting all of that together, obviously was directing his ire towards Lastings Millage, and understandably so. But Lastings back out in left field. Shane Victorino batting for Sanchez. And Feliciano, the new Mets pitcher. They count 1-1. 25th appearance for Pedro. Valentin, 1 away. Rollins will be next. So Shane Victorino, pinch hitting, pops up for the first out. And now Jimmy Rollins with a home run for the 2nd straight night. And Utley waiting on deck. Nice relay throw by Utley to nail Millage as well. Abreu got a lot of help there from Aaron Rowan in center field too. Two and one.
Well, there's the Met fans with the chant. Like the fanatic is taunting them.
He's great. Reyes. 2 out.
Well, these are mistakes you don't want to make when you're a rookie here. There's 2 outs. Line drive back to the track. And now you got to turn it on. And guess what happens? You're thrown out at the plate. That does not get you brownie points with your manager.
Keith, tell me how that happens. I mean, I just don't even understand how that happens, because that, you know, that is just a basic baseball play. 2 outs, you put your head down, you dig as hard as you can, you pick up your third base coach. I mean, that's taught since you're 10 years old, you know that play.
I could not agree with you more. You got to keep running and pick up your coach, and your third base coach is the one that'll put his hand up. If it's caught, he puts his hand up and says 3 outs, or he waves you home.
Yeah.
And with Millage's speed, he scores standing up.
Yes, easily.
It was shocking to see him come around third and the play even be close. That's not the kind of mistake you want to make when you're on the bubble too, and you've got a player coming off the DL soon. It seems, I don't know if you guys agree with this, but it just seems there's this culture among the fans and us in the media who have almost come to believe that Millage has earned the right to stay, and that's not necessarily so at all.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised when Nady comes back that Lastings is the one that goes down and gets to play every day in AAA, because he's young and he needs to hit. He's not going to do him any good to be up here sitting on the bench.
Breaking ball, strike 3, Utley gone. Phillies go in order. And it's on to the H, a lesson hopefully learned. Now the most advanced traffic information is just a click away with WB11.com's CommuterCast. Get real-time traffic updates on your computer every weekday afternoon at 4. Log on to WB11.com for CommuterCast. This has been about as angry as I've seen Willie Randolph at any of his players since he's managed the Mets.
Well, he spent around 2 minutes over there with Lastings Millage, and obviously about that base running.
Jose Reyes breaks his bat, picks up a hit. He'll make that trade any day. That is his 4th hit of the game. And it comes on the first pitch from Aaron Fultz in the 8th inning.
This was between innings here that Willie had this little chat with Lasting's Millage. He's not happy.
So now LaDuca. One thing that's been noticeable about this team, especially this year, is that they police themselves pretty well. You know, Willie obviously is going to have his say. He's the manager. But a lot of the admonishment that will occasionally come on a particular player or towards a particular player here will come from his teammates. Julio Franco, for instance.
Well, Howie, you make a great point, and I think that goes all the way back to Omar Minaya and the kind of team he tries to assemble, a combination of young players, some good veteran players, and veteran players on the bench and in the clubhouse. And those guys will not let that die. They will, sometimes in baseball, your other teammates can be very cruel. If you do something that's very silly, they will let you know about it over and over and over again until it's rock solid that you never want to do that again.
They'll bury you.
Yeah, they'll bury you.
Well, Jose Reyes experienced a little gentle admonishment from time to time last year from a guy who's not even here anymore, Miguel Cairo. And that's hit to deep center. Aaron Rowan makes the play, and Reyes will go back to first. Remember last year, Miguel Cairo played a lot of second base here. Reyes would occasionally have this propensity for blousing his shirt and being a little distracted by the events maybe in the stands and not quite focusing on the game. And one of the things that Cairo used to tell him from second base all the time was to get your head in the game.
Cairo, a very good veteran player, back with the Yankees now. Joe Torre knows how valuable he can be.
It also brings to mind, too, and those Bobby Valentine Mets. In 2000, Cookie Rojas was the coach, infield coach, and he kept a tight rein on Ordonez and Fonzie, and he just really just kept them focused, particularly Ordonez. I felt Cookie Rojas was invaluable in that club as far as a coach is concerned.
We saw Ray in Florida a few weeks ago. Wants to make a comeback next year. 1-2 to Beltran.
Why not? Minimum wage, what is it, $3.50?
Why not this year? What's wrong with this year?
Jeez.
He looked like he was in shape.
Hit 230, you make a couple million. Why not? Huh?
2-2. Beltran has a double. He's walked twice, scored a run, driven in a run. 8-3. We're in the 8th. Full count. I think Fultz wanted that.
You know, you look at Lastings there. Young players make mistakes. But if I were Willie, I'd be thinking, he obviously, that's not the first time he's done that. I mean, coming up through the minor leagues, obviously someone allowed him to do that occasionally.
Beltran hits it hard and over the head of DeLucci. Reyes on his way to third and Beltran to second. Runners at second and third with one out. Well, the Mets trying to widen some more space between themselves and those behind them. Atlanta was leading by 3. They're down the 10th inning. Colorado all over Washington. Pirates defeat the Cardinals. Scott Rowland a home run. Adam Dunn won it in the 11th inning for the Reds, breaking a scoreless tie. Astros leading the Cubs in the 9th. Sean Green finally goes deep again. Arizona leading the Giants and the Dodgers in front of the Padres.
Infield in, of course. The Mets are real close to blowing this game out. Delgado likes to swing first pitch in this situation.
And that's now with 16 hits in this ball game.
Nice call, Keith. You would hope as a pitcher, you would know that. Delgado loves to be aggressive on this RBI situation.
Yes. Not so much of a shift as you see there in that infield. Bell way in the hole as he should be.
I remember watching you, Keith, when we played together. You would, first time up, most of the time take that first pitch.
Yes.
But in RBI situation, you wouldn't.
It depended how I was hot. If I was swinging the bat good and I felt good, I knew the pitcher, I'd sneak attack him.
Delgado. Ballpark will hold it. DeLucci the catch. And Reyes down the line to make it 9-3. Third run batted into the game for Delgado. That gives him 49. And way less than half a season. And Reyes has scored for the first time tonight. Beltran still at second with 2 out.
Well, what new, Howie, as David Wright comes to the plate, Jose Reyes gets on, and he scores another run.
Oh, Reyes with a run tonight. Every Met starter, as Wright goes the other way. Abreu puts it away, and that retires the side. Every Met starter, including El Duque, not only has a hit, but has scored a run. Middle of the 8th inning. Now the Mets continue their stay here in Philadelphia, facing their division rival Phillies tomorrow afternoon. North Fork Bank pregame live at 12:30. Mets and Phillies afternoon baseball tomorrow, only on Sportsnet New York. Got to support the team. Isn't that what Putty said in Seinfeld?
That's someone's father. Think of it. Hey, Dad. What's with the paint?
Bobby Abreu takes a strike. Oh, now that's an assumption.
Been working overtime too long, Pop.
Got to bring home a living. Abreu, Howard, and Rowan against Feliciano. Big swing by Abreu, and it's 0-2. He's had some good at-bats, and he has looked, well, less than good going back on balls as Howard waits on deck. Still 0-2 to Abreu. 2 hits and a strikeout. Drove in a run. Now has a 13-game hitting streak. Pedro taking a lot of time on an 0-2 pitch. Nobody on base. Abreu got tired of the wait. Duca wants it away, and that's where it's delivered, but ball 1. Feliciano, the third Mets pitcher. El Duque went 3+. Oliver went 3. And this is Feliciano's second inning. Got him. Second strikeout for Feliciano. 1 away. Fans, in 2006, Hyundai, the Mets, and Sportsnet New York are teaming up to strike out cancer. For every K the Mets pitching staff registers, Hyundai, the Mets, and Sportsnet New York will donate $25 to the Hope and Heroes Children's Cancer Fund. The pitchers tonight have now struck out 7. And Heath Bell loosening up. Willie hoping to rest those key guys in the bullpen tonight, meaning the late guys, Heilman, Sanchez, and Wagner, with a day game tomorrow. And it's Beltran in front of Millage. 2 outs. Billy threw 30 pitches last night. He was telling me before the game today he was fine to pitch tonight if needed. He has not thrown a whole lot lately, so he's raring to go, but the way things are right now, it doesn't appear he'll be needed.
And that's a good thing with the day game tomorrow. That gives him a day and a half rest.
And the Mets are 4 outs away from an 8.5 game lead in the East, 9 in the loss column.
And one more with the second place Phillies tomorrow. They're creating a lot of space. 0-1 to Rowan. If you're a fan, you've just got to savor a week like this because you know it doesn't come around very often. The amount of hitting this team has done, supplemented and complemented by excellent defense, solid work out of the bullpen.
But it really has been a fine 25-man effort. You got Oliver coming in and picking up for El Duque, Feliciano. Andy Chavez getting the start because Cliff Floyd hurts his ankle in Dodger Stadium. Lastings Millage getting called up and helping out.
It's depth.
Unbelievable.
Got to have depth. Even the Three Stooges had Shemp. 1-2 evens the count.
You know, Howie, you talk about as a fan savoring this week. I'm curious to see how long this period extends itself. There's El Duque.
Two taken outside. Whatever happens tomorrow, assuming the Mets hold on to this one, they want to get a hero's welcome at Shea Stadium when they'll appear for the first time in nearly 2 weeks. Everybody pointed to a long road trip and said, well, this could be rather instructive about where this team's going. If that's the case, it's a good sign.
Yeah, it's a great sign.
Got him. 2 strikeouts in the inning, 3 for Feliciano. We move to the 9th. It's 9-3 New York. So the Braves lose as the Marlins beat them, and if the Mets hold on here, Atlanta, winners of 14 straight division titles, would be a dozen games out of first place. They have never been that far back in the decade and a half of their superiority. Aaron Fultz facing Jose Valentin to start the ninth. 0-1.
You know, Howie, not only that, but for the first time, I've been hearing the comments that are kind of filtered out of Atlanta from Bobby Cox saying, you know, we just plain stink right now. John Smoltz saying, if we think because we won 14 straight titles that it's going to just come again, we're in trouble because we're not playing with any urgency. John Smoltz is a smart player, and if he says something like that, you got to take it to heart.
Well, their bullpen has let them down. They've got an awful lot of young players in that starting lineup, second-year players that did the job last year that aren't getting it done this year. Sooner or later, the string's got to run out, and what a run!
Well,
and it's not over yet. We're not throwing them off the cliff, but if they don't get there this year, it was quite a run.
What a run!
Last year was around this time when it looked as though the run might end. They weren't anywhere near this far out of first place, though, as Bobby Abreu makes the catch. And then those kids you talk about, Francoeur and McCann, became a major factor in their turnaround. This is tonight's AOL game summary. First inning runs again and a whole lot more. Every Mets starter contributing. El Duque will not qualify for a win, though.
I could have had the win if it didn't rain.
That looks like downtown LA, 213-10, no, like a phone number.
0-1 to Chavez. Well, you want a better high-speed internet, you belong at AOL. Someone conjuring up Bob Murphy.
Bob Murph. Oh!
I'm sure you heard that from the stand. Somebody simply yelling, "We'll be back with a happy recap," which is what Bob Murphy, our late win.
Ed Lynch, our old teammate, did a great Murph imitation. Murph always got mad when you did it.
Oh, he was embarrassed by it.
Oh, we loved it though.
2-2. We once had the idea, the first year we did Mets Extra in 1987, to have a Bob Murphy sound-alike contest. And we were told that it was a go, that Murph had been spoken to and that he was okay with it. 3-2 to Chavez. So at the annual sponsors dinner in St. Petersburg, I'm up there with Del DeMontro from WHN. Murph is in the front row. Chavez, a little roller that kicks foul, and we assume we've got his okay, so we introduce the concept. We're doing our Bob Murphy imitations, and Murph's face is getting redder and redder and redder. And to make a long story short, we didn't do the contest.
He was always would get upset if you go, "Hey Murph, oh."
You know, he just didn't like the attention. As simple as that. He was embarrassed by the attention. Oh my. Everybody, when we were growing up in New York, and I know a lot of you can relate to this, playing stickball or punch ball or any form of baseball, we would call a game as though we were Bob Murphy. And that's not an exaggeration. That is the absolute truth. Payoff pitch to Chavez. David Bell hustles over. Good play. So 2 away. And Lastings Millage will be next. Mets fans always traveling and missing games. Watch Mets games live online whenever you're away from New York. Exclusively from MLB.tv. Mets.com has more live games than anyone else. Mets.com, where baseball is always on.
When I did my Just for Men commercial, and when Walter Frazier and I were the announcers, and we go, what a wonderful day for the action. That's how we opened the commercial up. It was supposed to be a wonderful day, and I did my Murph. I said, "Oh, it's what a marvelous night for the action." I threw a Murph in there.
Was that the first take?
Yes.
Good recovery by Bell. And Howard holds on. Millage hit it hard, but he's retired. And the Mets go in order. So middle of the 9th inning. If it were closer, Murph would say, "Fasten your seatbelts." New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Dodge. You can take life as it comes, or you can grab life by the horns. Dodge. Aflac, ask about it at work. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% on car insurance. Visit geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. And Jeep, the all-new 7-passenger Jeep Commander. It's your world. Take command. And Pepto-Bismol.
Oh my goodness.
How do you feature yours, Howie? How do you have your cheesesteak?
Well, you know what? I used to revel at just a good old-fashioned American cheesesteak until I went to one of these places here and I saw them dip into a big old vat of Cheese Whiz, and it broke this illusion I had. I thought it was maybe some secret special cheese they had. No. There's got to be a better way. Heath Bell to work the bottom of the 9th. 1-0 to David DeLucci. What about you?
I like the Cheese Whiz, then the provolone on top of that, cheese, and then just the steak. I don't like the onions or mushrooms, any of that.
1-1.
I had one once.
Once?
And I did not like it. I never had one again. I couldn't even tell you what it was. But I did.
Well, it wasn't very good.
I tried it a long time. Everybody said you got to try it, Philadelphia.
Yeah,
cheesesteak. And I never had one again.
And that was Jim's that we saw there down on South Street. Very famous one.
You got Jim's, Pat's, and Gino's. Are they the 3
yes.
most popular ones? 1-2 now on DeLucci. Is it Steve Summers from WFAN? Calls them the Philly cheesesteaks.
Steve Summers. He gets me home at night when I drive back to Sag Harbor.
I'll bet. He is the best. It'll be a 1-2 to DeLucci. Fouled away. So Heath Bell just trying to finish up here. This is Bell's 8th appearance.
13 hits last night for the Mets. 16 again tonight.
Yeah, 1 short of their season high. And that gets away after strike 3. LaDuca's throw, not in time. So DeLucci, despite striking out, reaches safely. A strikeout, wild pitch.
No, it's got to be a pass ball. That wasn't in the dirt.
Yeah, he just called wild pitch, but looking at that, it's playable for LaDuca.
Let's see. It's got to be in the dirt to be a wild pitch. That's just a pass ball.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think?
That's a pass ball.
Well, we assume they'll change that.
Would it be, is it a pass ball or an E2?
No, a pass ball.
Pass ball?
Yeah.
Such a rare call. That's just a rare thing to see.
Yeah.
But right now, it's in the book as a wild pitch. And that's strike 1 to David Bell. So if you're keeping a scorecard and you're a stickler for detail, we will let you know, Gary. We'll let you know. I'm sure Gary's got a scorecard going because he's going to need it when he gets back Friday. There, they're changing it now.
He better be on top of his game. He's had plenty of rest.
Oh, he's going to be better than on top of his game.
He's had plenty of rest.
Gary should be back on Friday night when the Orioles come in. And I guarantee you, if you look at Gary's scorecards, and he'll have one for every game he missed, it will look as though he were in the booth scoring the game. Every last detail. I assume he's able to keep the pitch count. And that's one of the great things about the training you get at the minor league level. I never learned to do that, but he records every pitch.
I know he does. I always get the pitch count from him. I look over his shoulder.
I miss that
when he's reading copy. I take a peek over.
So
his
you're
shoulder.
cheating already, just like school.
You could ask him. I always did. He shares.
I think it's a moot point anyway. I think Gary's in Toronto scouting the Orioles tonight. Baltimore's in Toronto.
Tell you what, I would trust that scouting report. And then you have a David Bell fly ball that Millage fumbles with, but finally holds on to. Lastings Millage stays with it, 1 away.
Ball kind of died here. You can see it. The wind's kind of blowing in here. Nice recovery.
So here's Chris Coast. And still looking for that first big league hit.
That was an interesting stance, Coast. Wide open. And then kind of right before the pitch comes, kind of changes his.
A lot of movement.
Yeah, too much movement.
A lot of movement.
I've only seen one player have tons and tons of movement that I played with that was a good hitter, and that was Carney Lansford with Oakland A's. He had tons of movement, but
0-2. Tell you what's coming up on Geico Sports Night. Reaction from here. Randy Johnson pitching against the Indians and Eli Manning in Giants camp. We'll have that all for you. 0-2 to Coast. To short. Reyes to second, one on to first, and put it in the books. The New York Mets have defeated the Philadelphia Phillies and have now won 7 in a row. They have opened up an 8.5 game lead in the National League East. The Phillies in second place, and the third place Braves are 12 back. The fourth place Nationals are 12.5 back. And whatever Willie's not happy about, it's got to pale in comparison to how he's feeling about what this club has done on this road trip. 8-1 on the trip.
Well, what's particularly impressive, Howie, is they went on the West Coast first, came all the way back to Philadelphia against their rival, and take the first 2 games. big win in a very big way.
Well, you're right, Keith. Remember their last trip, they were 3-6 in a 9-game trip. Had a very bad road trip. Last year, 11 games under 500. Willie wanted them to be a better team on the road, and they are so far.
So we'll see you tomorrow afternoon for the finale of this trip as well as this series. Stay tuned now. Coming up, post-game live on SNY. You'd be smiling too if you were having the kind of success that the partying Mets have been. More first inning runs. Then the rain came. El Duque will not get the win. The contributions across the board. And the Mets have a 7-game winning streak. And so for Ron Darling, Keith Hernandez, Chris Cotter, and Gary Cohen, I'm Howie Rose. Thanks for joining us. Coming up next, post-game live, but first, Kenny Choi in our Sportsnet New York studios.
Thanks, Howie. Nissan Post-Game Live is coming up next, but later on Geico's Sports Night, all of the baseball highlights, a preview of the U.S. Open, and the Giants have their first day of minicamp. We'll also hear from Eli Manning and company. That's later on Geico's Sports Night, but stay tuned. Nissan Post-Game Live is up next.
Welcome to Nissan Postgame Live. Matt Yaloff here in our New York studios. Geico Sports Night follows, so stick around for that. The Mets winning streak now. 7 games. It took a little bit longer than expected. The rain got in the way, but the Mets get it done again on the road, again in the first inning. Carlos Delgado with a man on third. He drives in a run, his 8th straight game with an RBI. The Mets score in the first inning in 7 consecutive road games. All of them wins. More on that coming up in a bit. It's historical. How about David Wright? He's doing his thing. He's up the middle with an RBI. And just like that, the Mets out in front of Brett Myers and the Phillies, 2-0. Into the second inning, it's 3-0 Mets. Orlando Hernandez gets the start. David Bell is at the plate, and look at this fly ball to right center field, and Carlos Beltran on the horse against Turkey Hill. And check out Ryan Howard. Has no idea what's going on. Is he tagging? Is he not? He's in between. He's caught. He is out. Double play. So the Phillies' sloppy play from game 1 continues into game 2. Top of the third, David Wright. And, you know, it's like a nightly thing almost. It's 13 home runs. David Wright is rocking and rolling. David Wright is hitting .336 on the season. Mets up 4-0. Jose Reyes now into the outfield. Bobby Abreu now. Bobby Abreu. He has a gold glove somehow, but that's Lastings, Millage scoring, and Jose Reyes going into third base. The Mets are dominating. It's 6-0. Bottom of the third, still 6-0. Jimmy Rollins takes El Duque out. He had 2 home runs against Glavine yesterday. He has one tonight, so the Phillies are finally on the board. It's 6-1. At 6-2 in the fourth, Carlos Delgado up the middle. Carlos Beltran comes in. Everything's working. The Phillies score, the Mets come right back, and they get that run back at 7-2. Bottom of the fourth, umpires say the rain is too much, roll out the tarp. Out comes the tarp. About an hour or so later, Darren Oliver takes over, and Darren Oliver was wonderful. This guy has been something else, and look at that. Charlie Manuel says that was up. The umpire says you're out. Charlie Manuel's team, sputtering big-time. Manuel trying to do anything to get them going. Does it work? Well, we'll see. In the 7th inning, I guess not, because Julio Franco comes in and Bobby Abreu. Again, Bobby Abreu comes up short. Jose Valentin comes in, and Lastings Millage is thrown out at the plate. And if you take a look at this, Millage around first, not full speed. He's looking back instead of heading full steam to home plate, and he is out. And tell you what, Willie Randolph not happy about that. He gives Millage an earful in the dugout, a rookie mistake. It's probably one he won't make again, you would think, or hopefully not in the near term. The Mets win it 9-3. Now about that scoring in the first inning thing, listen to this. 7 straight games on the road now. The Mets have scored in the first inning. All of the games have resulted in wins. That ties a major league record set by the 1939 Yankees. So you want to talk about a special road trip, this is it. In terms of a special advantage in the NL East, this is it. Look at the standings here. The Mets' division lead is the largest since 1988. They have an 8.5-game lead on the Phillies now. They're playing 18 games over 500. Again, 1988, That was the largest lead since that season when the Mets went to the NLCS. After the game, Chris Cotter caught up with Jose Reyes. Reyes 4 for 5 in tonight's win.
Jose, you guys have made a habit of getting on the teams early, and you did it again tonight by scoring in the first inning. How important has that been?
I mean, it's so important for us. Every time you get in the scoreboard first, so it's a good thing going to happen. So right now, everybody's staying together, and hopefully we want to keep it that way.
You had 2 hits last night. You've walked 6 times in the last couple of games, and you have 4 hits again tonight. So you're really getting on. Are you being a little bit more selective at the plate, you think, in terms of being able to get on base?
You know, I kind of the same. I just try looking for my pitch and try swing the best I can right now. Right now, I feel so good in the play, and I saw the ball good. That's the most important thing.
You got a lot of speed on the base pass, too. Not just you, but with Endy in the lineup and Millage as well. It kind of gets the merry-go-round going, doesn't it?
You know, that's a big part of game. You know, we got speed, we got power, so we got a lot of different things.
How difficult is it to go in for a rain delay that long and then come back out and kind of pick up where you left off?
You know, it's all right for us. You know, we don't worry about that. We just go inside and relax a little bit and come again to the game and play the game hard.
Good. Thanks, Jose.
Thank you.
All right, Jose Reyes with Chris Cotter. And all right, put these numbers in perspective, or at least try to digest these numbers. The Mets are 8-1 so far in this 10-game road trip. 13 homers, 73 runs scored, 110 hits. And if you're wondering if this is a record or possibly a record for wins on a road trip, even with a win tomorrow, that'll be 9 wins. The Mets' record for wins on one roadie is 10. So they'll come up just short, but that was on an 11-game trip. So really, it's no fault of the Mets. It's just a 10-game road trip. Much more to come here on Nissan Postgame Live. More reaction from Philadelphia on the way, including the manager. Willie Randolph talks. David Wright on fire. 26 straight games now without an error at third base, the longest streak in the National League. Back on Nissan Postgame Live, take a look at the Mets box score, and again, lots of crooked numbers. We're getting used to it. You see Orlando Hernandez 3 innings pitched. What you don't see is the 6 innings of 1-run ball the bullpen threw tonight. Oliver, Feliciano, and Bell outstanding after a 1-hour rain delay. And that's where we bring in our analysts here, Ron Darling and Keith Hernandez. Let's jump out with this bullpen situation here. What does it mean to a team to know that there are guys in the middle who can come up after a rain delay and do what these guys did tonight?
Well, I think when you're talking about the relief corps, it's one of the strengths of the Mets all season long. It's a pity, though, that El Duque didn't have a chance to stay out there longer and get the win. He pitched decently in the first 3 innings, but that bullpen, Oliver has been invaluable in that position of pitching long relief. Feliciano seems to be getting better and better with that breaking ball, especially against lefties, and Heath Bell cleaned up.
Keith, let me ask you this about Brett Myers tonight. A hitter's approach here. The Mets are clearly on fire with the bats. It's almost like not even worth talking about anymore because it's every single day. But when you're facing a guy like Brett Myers, this is supposed to be the ace of a staff. How did they put him out of the game so quickly?
Well, they put him out of the game quickly by just tearing the cover off the ball again, and they rattled him. He got really shook out there, and he lost his temper. He lost his cool. It was a game that was really, I felt, and Ronnie, we all felt here, it was a must-win for Philadelphia. Now they're 8.5 back, 9 in the loss column. And on the reverse flip side, from the Mets' point of view, it's like, hey, we go on the West Coast for a week. We come back all the way east. We go in our #1 rival, Philadelphia, in our division. And they beat the tar out of them the first 2 games, and they're ace to boot. So they're in the driver's seat.
All right, so that's a perfect segue to Ron here on Myers. If he's the ace, and we know he's emotional, and we know over the course of his career he sometimes loses his cool. Ron, are you surprised they started a catcher tonight with so little experience in such an important game?
Yeah, Coast caught tonight a 33-year-old rookie, but, you know, I think he did a decent job back there. It wasn't him. I think what happened with Brett Myers is that he's had a lot of frustration. They are not scoring runs for him. He only has 4 wins on the season after pitching really beautiful ball. 12 out of his 13 starts before tonight, he's given up 3 runs or less. So he's pitched great. I think the frustration of not getting runs over the course of the season and then going against this tough Met team, he had 2 outs in the first inning, and they came back and scored 2 runs off him. So I think that's where all the frustration came from.
And don't forget that they sat Burrell out tonight, too, their big cleanup hitter, which was, and I know it's a long season. It's a day game tomorrow. But an important series like this, you want to go with all your guns, I would think.
Yeah, it seemed a little strange. Keith, in your day when you're playing defense, clearly on top of your game, Aaron Rowand is one of those guys for the Phillies. What would you say to a guy like Bobby Abreu, who doesn't appear to be bringing it defensively, and this team is struggling to gain some ground?
Well, you don't mind players making errors. Errors happen if guys are hustling and playing hard, and you know those things happen. But you know those kind of plays that Abreu made, where it's pretty apparent he didn't want to go up against the wall, and it's the third time. It's happened twice today, and once last night. That can create a lot of dissension in a ball club where, you know, hey, we're out here busting, and you're afraid to get hurt.
Yeah, and we also saw some base running blunders, Ryan Howard, and clearly Charlie Manuel is frustrated. And then we saw some frustration from Willie Randolph as well. You guys talked about it during the game. What do you think that conversation was about? What was Willie telling Lastings-Milledge after he was thrown out at home?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what it was. It was what you saw when a runner with 2 outs is looking at the ball and not hustling and picking up his third base coach. That is just simply unacceptable baseball. You learn that stuff since you're a young kid, how to bust on 2 outs, and I'm sure that's what Willie told him. And, you know, it's surprising to see that because Lastings-Milledge has so much talent. But what you're seeing a raw version of Milledge, and he still has a ways to go.
Well, you know, also when you're a young kid getting called up to the big leagues, you're going to make mistakes. But you don't want to make mistakes for the lack of hustle and making bonehead plays. And it's 2 outs and a fly ball. You run hard no matter what. Even if the ball's behind you, you pick up your third base coach, and you don't stop running until he holds up his hands and says 3 outs, or he waves you home.
I think a lot of Mets fans would say, all right, 2 out of 3 would be great in Philly, and we'll go back home. But I get the sense the Mets will not be happy with 2 out of 3. They want to go for the knockout blow against Corey Lytle tomorrow.
When you take it a day at a time, okay? They've won the first 2 games. Get greedy. 3. Go for 3.
It's almost like when you're a hitter. If you get 2 or 3 hits early in the game, you keep plugging for 4 or 5 hits. This team is learning how to put the hammer down, and once they do, like you said, Keith, they might run away with this division.
They're in a position to do it right now. It's getting very close. It's getting very, very similar to 86, where they've just may dominate this division. Now, I don't want to get ahead of it. There's a long way to go. There's injuries that could happen. But if this team stays healthy, I just think they're the class of the East.
Yeah, and largest division lead for the Mets since '88, and you guys know all about that. I certainly don't have to tell you that. Keith and Ron, thanks so much. We'll see you tomorrow for the final game from Philadelphia. That's Keith and Ron Darling there. Not Keith and Ron Darling. Keith Hernandez and Ron Darling. They don't have the same last name, but you know what I mean. Steve Troxel, Corey Lytle in the finale tomorrow. It's a day game. Troxel 3-4, Lytle 4-5. Lytle, of course, started his big league career with the New York Mets. All right, when we come back on Nissan Postgame Live, we'll get further into this Mets game, and we'll talk about what's happening around the league and what happened in the NL East outside of the Mets and Phillies. Don't go away. Nissan Postgame Live continues. We're back on Nissan Postgame Live with the Nissan Play of the Game. It happened in the second inning before the rain delay. Mets with a 3-run lead. You know, they had 9 runs in this game and 16 hits, but defense rules the day. Carlos Beltran with a nice running catch up against the scoreboard, and they catch Ryan Howard. Didn't know what he was doing, whether he was tagging or he thought the ball was going to fall in. Whatever it is, they turn the double play. That snuffs out a potential Phillies rally, and that is your play of the day. All right, so the Mets win. What about Dontrelle Willis and the Marlins riding a 3-game winning streak facing the Braves? Edgar Renteria is on first. Jeff Francoeur is out. A home run. Atlanta pads their lead to 5-2 against Dontrelle. Into the 8th now. It's a 5-3 game. Cody Ross is on. Wes Helms with his second home run of the game. The Marlins come from behind to tie it at 5-5. Do they do the Mets a favor in extra innings? Here it is. Jeremy Hermida drops one down. Mike Remlinger throws it away, and Reggie Abercrombie dashes home. The Marlins win it 6-5. They've won 4 games in a row. So the Braves lose more ground. They've lost 11 of 13 in the month of June. They are now 12 full games behind the Mets. The Phillies are 8.5 back. The Nationals and Marlins, the gap now is closing on the bottom. The Braves only 3 games out of last place. Hard to believe. Well, you're watching Nissan Postgame Live here on Sportsnet New York. We continue on after a break. The Philly fanatic knocking out the Mets fan, while the Mets are knocking out the Phillies. Willie Randolph next. We talked earlier in the show with Ron Darling and Keith Hernandez about the Mets bullpen and how effective it's been. But look at this, 16 wins from the pen this year. That is the highest total in Major League Baseball, 16 wins out of the pen. All right, how about defense? And Aaron Rowan comes to mind when you're talking Mets and Phillies. And this is May 11th. This is not tonight. This is May 11th. Xavier Nady with the fly ball. Aaron Rowan, you've seen this probably a million times where Aaron Rowan makes the amazing catch, breaks his nose, lacerates his face. Tonight's game in the third inning, you got to be kidding me, right? Dead center field again, and I was holding my breath. Aaron Rowan can't come up with that. Certainly not for lack of trying. You know he's kicking himself there. But eerily familiar or similar to the fly ball back on May 11th. Bobby Abreu now we flash back. Jose Reyes at the plate. This is at Shea. May 24th, Abreu back to the wall. I mean, my goodness gracious, he has major issues at the wall. Reyes all the way into third. In the third inning of tonight's game, Jose Reyes deep to right field. Bobby Abreu, this is his home park, doesn't make the grab. Jose Reyes into third base. Seventh inning, Julio Franco deep to right center field. Bobby Abreu back to the wall and comes up empty once again. Bobby Abreu, a Gold Glover, somehow, some way. The upcoming schedule here from the Mets. Tomorrow, Thursday, Phillies. Coverage begins at 12:30 p.m. That's Baseball Day in New York, brought to you by ChevyOffers.com. And then Friday, finally, it's home to play the Orioles. After the 10-game road trip, interleague play kicks in again. Friday at Shea, coverage begins at 6:30. All right, now, Willie Randolph. You saw him during this game, certainly happy about his team's performance, but not all that thrilled with Lasting's millage and had some issues with the umpire as well. Well, Willie Randolph talked to the media just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, he's a tough pitcher, and he's pitched well against us this year and in the past, so it was nice to jump on him early. We've been doing that lately, and that sets the tone for us. We get rolling early, and, you know, we can be more aggressive. So, again, a fine pitcher, but, again, we got to him early, kind of rattled him a little bit, I thought, and we were able to score a few runs early to get us going.
It's about as well balanced to win, also because everybody scored a run and had a hit as a starter.
Yeah, I didn't really notice that, but yeah, when you're playing well, that's usually what happens. You know, everyone's making a contribution, everyone's you know, focused and trying to do everything they can to help us win. So, you know, that's nice balance, and like I said again, that's nice when you can see everybody get in the flow of things, and when you're playing well, that happens.
Beltran made a nice play going to right center and gave golf ball, tracking and gave the ball deep doing this.
Yes, good fundamentally defense. You know, running the bases. You know, we're clicking on all cylinders right now. You don't play the way we played this whole trip without playing with a lot of confidence and doing most of the things right. And also being very fortunate in a lot of ways. You know, I mean, you know, we've gotten some breaks here and there. We're taking advantage of it, and that's what good teams do.
Tough for the rain delay in terms of having to go with a pitcher early. Darren, talk about the job he did in that situation.
Yeah, well, Darren did a great job. I feel bad for Oduke because I thought that, you know, that was his win. It should have been his win. But he's one of those guys that doesn't bounce back from delays, and that's unfortunate for him because he was kind of cruising a little bit, and I didn't want to take a chance and, you know, setting him back. I think about 3 or 4 years ago, 2 years ago, he had a problem with, you know, a rain delay situation. So, you know, he wanted to stay in there. Well, he wanted to stay in there, but I think he felt like in his mind that it probably wasn't a good idea, so I just took him out.
The problem was with the Yankees when you were there.
Yeah. So once that's in your mind, and I don't want to, you know, mess with anything that's going on with him right now. He's in a good groove, and you know, I mean, he's a team player. I mean, he said, listen, he was just honest with me about it, and I said, listen, we're not going to take a shot and just give Darren the ball, and he did a nice job. Feliciano did a great job also. Give him props because he's been throwing the ball great, and I thought he did a nice job for us, and Heath Bell finished it up.
What's the time? How long?
There's no particular time. I mean, again, most pitchers are different, but I think it was more than anything, it's also psychological too. So, you know, I mean, it wasn't like we got to a point and said this is it. Just that you know, when you slow down like that, and I think there was an inning during the early part of the game where we had a long inning. So it's a combination of things.
You were disappointed with Lasting's base run at some point in time tonight? You had a conversation?
Yeah, well, I just thought that he should have scored on that ball to right center field. You got to put your head down and run. It's 2 outs. You don't want to be a spectator there, and I thought he was spectating a little bit.
7 straight now with this JV. Something about how well they've played with it being this kind of zone, especially a chance to put some distance now between you and the rest of the teams in this division. Going on a pretty good time for the squad. The streak.
Streak is good anytime, man. You know, we're just having fun with it, and we're not going to think too much about it because, again, you got another game to play tomorrow. But it's just nice playing well anytime, and when you're playing against the people in your division, it's even sweeter.
Well, you've spoken a couple of times this year about developing a killer instinct, putting a team away, late game or early series. See that developing, with your guys now, especially with the Dunn's first game.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot. Sometimes it doesn't work for you, but we don't want to take anyone lightly for that matter. But we try to make sure that we don't feel sorry for anybody and just keep playing the game. The game has a way of humbling you and turning things around. So when you get in a nice little rhythm, nice little groove, you want to ride it as hard as you can. So it's just nice to just be able to have a nice road trip, a real good road trip. We always talk about playing well on the road. We have another game tomorrow, but obviously so far this has been pretty successful. So we'll finish up strong tomorrow and get on back home.
Philly was last, and did you talk to him? You talked to him in the dugout right afterwards?
Yeah.
How much easier is it for guys to hit when they don't have to hit and they take pressure off each other and it just makes it easier?
No, it's not always easy, because focus is very important. And sometimes when you have games where you are ahead or sometimes out of it, you don't focus as much. So it's just nice when everyone's feeding off each other. I think when you get walks, when you make pitches pitched to you, I think that's really what sets up an onslaught like what we've had lately. Being patient, things I've always talked about, and we're doing it really well right now.
With Lastings, is it about sort of more than just this one episode tonight? You just want to make sure you keep a rookie focused? Is it more of a global thing?
No, it's just about a young player trying to learn how to play the game. I'm trying to teach him, that's all. That's all it is.
Because of the past 2 minutes, you guys have gotten the hits, but are you surprised at all the way that the Phillies have been playing defense in terms of committing all the errors and kind of making the mistakes for better second hit?
Am I surprised?
Well, yeah, I mean, a team that's supposed to be. Well,
I don't care about that. If they want to, kick the ball around, that's fine with me or whatever. They go through bursts like that sometimes. I think I heard Charlie last night saying, I heard David Bell say that that's not characteristic of the way they play. So he feels they're a good defensive ball club. I'm just happy that they're, having a little bit of a defensive or whatever you want to call it at this time. That's fine by me.
Willie, I'm sorry if you answered this earlier, but I know you try to temper things a lot of times. But I mean, just with the way you're playing, you sit back at all during, when you're scoring every inning and playing like this, you sit back at all and say, you know what, we're a pretty great team right now.
Well, I when you're playing well, there's no doubt about that. You're clicking and you're doing things right, but no, you don't really sit back and go, wow, anything like that, because that's what you expect. I mean, I said to you guys, again, you guys were listening a couple weeks ago, that I felt like we still have not really hit our stride offensively. Just that now we're doing some things really nice offensively where we're basically being patient and getting the pitch to hit, putting the ball in play. And I said that, even when we play well off and on, we're consistent at times, but we pitch well, and we've done some things, but our offense can be really awesome, I think, if we do certain things. So it's nice to see us doing those things and starting to get guys on base and having good at-bats. We're getting back to our 2-out approach where we're getting some big 2-out hits and starting rallies with 2 outs. So that's all part of what you expect, more or less. So I'm not surprised by it. I pretty much expect it because I think we have a real good ball club.
Well, you've been consistent all year, but is this your best stretch?
Well, I think altogether, offensively and pitching and everything, defense, probably so. I think we won 6 games early in the year, but we've been pretty consistent. But anytime you hit the way we hit in LA and then the way we hit in Arizona and coming here and continue that, it's probably my best stretch. But I don't really look at it that way. I just play the game every day, and when you reflect, sometimes you notice all that stuff. But I just try to get to every game and make sure we win each game. And that's really the key for me, is just being consistent with everyday stuff. Players are going to go up and down. We're going to go through ups and down streaks, but I would have to say that we're playing as well as we can right now. It's good to see.
And I would say that's an understatement, playing as well as they can play. Tomorrow, coverage here on SNY begins at 12:30. Baseball day in New York. Mets and Phillies at 1 o'clock as the Mets wrap up a 10-game road trip. That's going to do it for Nissan Postgame Live. Geico Sports Night is next. More reaction from the Mets after yet another win on the road. I'm Matt Yaloff. Geico Sports Night next. Enjoy.